shovel. Looking for an edge. Gets it. Saquon Barkley. First down. Barkley. Oh! Saquon. Touchdown.
Live from Radio Row for Super Bowl 59 in New Orleans, this is 365 Sports.
First and 10. Hunt again, slips through, goes all the way for the touchdown.
Radio Row coverage is brought to you by Allen Samuels House of Travel, the official travel sponsor of 365 Sports.
Hurts. Gets a shot. Hurts.
Super Bowl 59 coverage is also brought to you by Batteries Plus, Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine, TexasBeefHouse.com, Edward Jones Financial Advisors, Bird Culchin Ford, Ideal MRI, Allen Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat, Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, Tradesman Services, Richard Carr Motors.
Rolling, Mahomes, he can keep it, he can get there, he's in for the touchdown.
365 Sports is produced by Garrett Ross and Emery Winter.
Design run, Hurts, delay, Hurts, in, touchdown, Eagles.
Now here's David Smoke and Paul Catalina.
Welcome into 365 Sports. Sadly, we have departed from Media Row in New Orleans. We are on our way back to Waco, and that means that we're going to give you today all the stuff you didn't see, that we didn't have time to get to on the show, including some interesting Super Bowl insights all throughout the show, but some really, really cool stuff that may be a little bit away from the Super Bowl. We talked to two naval ship commanders, one a captain, one a commander, that played at the Naval Academy, about their experience at the Naval Academy in the Navy, commanding ships, which is awesome. A couple from that representing the Wounded Warrior Project that met and fell in love in the Army and have helped each other through a lot of different challenges. A really beautiful story that you have to hear, and we had a really good time talking to them as well. Not to mention country singer Jay Allen, who has raised $160 million for Alzheimer's research. We talked to him about some of his favorite music artists and, the cause, and he appeared on The Voice. You're probably familiar with him. Two sports star DJ Dozier joins us to talk about what's going on in his life, what he thinks about athletes now, over specialization, just his thoughts on a lot of different things. Sarah Spain, formerly of ESPN, now doing her own podcast. Talk a lot about women's sports with that, because it is the only daily women's sports podcast. Good Game with Sarah Spain, and Roman Gabriel III, whose father passed away recently, an NFL legend, about the charitable work that he continues to do in his father's name, and some pretty exciting stuff from Fathead that he's got coming up. He was really, really fired up about it. We've known Roman for a long time. He's a staple here on Radio Row. That and more coming up next on 365 Sports.
Everyone knows that if they've watched this show long enough, my father, 1953 graduate of the United States Naval Academy, Annapolis.
Let's go.
And lost him in 2015. He would, that movie Officer and a Gentleman, that was him. It could have been him. It could have been him. Jervy Alota, Captain, and also Commander Tyree Barnes. Good afternoon. How you guys doing?
Great, David.
Great.
Thank you guys for having us.
Paul Catalina, of course, Garrett Ross, Emery Winters here as well. The Navy and what it means, the military and your experiences and the decorations and all that beautiful looking, by the way, uniforms you're wearing.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
So what did it mean? What has it meant? And tell everybody about the Naval Academy and then the experience of being a part of the military and the Navy.
So for me, it started early. My parents were enlisted in the Navy, so as your father had that. So
yep.
And again, it led me to say that, hey, I want to be a part of something bigger than myself. So I grew up in Virginia, where the world's largest naval base is. I saw the planes around, I saw the ships around, but I went to the Naval Academy on a visit with my mother, and that was the only place I went. I went on my naval visit there, and I said, this is where I need to be. I need to be a part of this team. I need to be a part of something that is bigger than myself, and I know it's going to make me turn out to be a great man, which it has been. So my journey's been great so far.
Jervy?
Yeah, it's the same thing. I had a propensity to serve. My dad was also a chief in the Navy, immigrated from the Philippines, because I was blessed with the ability to play a little bit of football. That's what got me to Naval Academy. I wasn't the brightest, candle in the room, but I had the ability to play a little bit of football, and that's what brought me to serve in the Navy. And my original goal was to do 5 years and then get out, and I wanted to coach and teach. But, I love the Navy so much. 28 years later, I'm still serving.
It's awesome. It's awesome.
So, the cool things about it, like it's a hard job. Like you guys have not had an easy job at all, but there are a lot of cool things about it. Like, what would you tell someone who is on the fence about it?
Yeah, so the Navy is not easy, just like you said. It's hard, but if you ever want to do anything like significant in your life, it's gonna be hard, right? You're it's gonna take some risks. It's gonna take hard work, and it's gonna require you to kind of get yourself out of your comfort zone if you want to do something special. But the Navy offers so many different opportunities, whether it's on a submarine doing nuclear power, whether it's flying a jet or working on a jet engine, whether it's driving a surface ship, whether it's in the medical field or in the science occupation. There are just so many different opportunities within the Navy, whether it's STEM, whether it's Warrior Challenge. It could be physical attributes or it could be cerebral. The Navy offers it all.
And it is an experience. Annapolis, Maryland is, all the academies have incredible views or whatever. How would you describe walking around the campus of Annapolis?
It's amazing. Like I said, I fell in love. I had 4 visits scheduled after that visit to Annapolis, and I did not want to leave. So just being on the waterfront, just knowing absolutely when you set up, like when you get there, just knowing the type of men and women that have came through before you is amazing. You see the big, the statuesque buildings that you're going to be living in. You see the water, you see the sailboats, and you have to buy into that. You have to buy into that system, and you understand that, hey, I'm going to turn into a great leader when I leave this place.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about my plebe year when you're waking up at 4 a.m. in the morning and you're doing morning PT, and it's just a grind. It sucks, to be honest with you. But then you see the sun rise on the Severn, and you're like, okay, this is why I'm here.
Yeah.
This is the beauty of it all, and it's just like there's no more beautiful. I'm from San Diego, so I know beauty when I see it.
Yeah.
But Annapolis is absolutely gorgeous, and there's nothing like seeing that sun rising.
I missed the Super Bowl being held at Jack Murphy Stadium or Qualcomm or whatever. It's been a long time. And I remember just oh my God, it's a gorgeous scene with the ships and all the stuff you see across the bay.
Where is the favorite place that either of you have been stationed?
So you guys are.
Oh, so it's really easy for me because I've been in San Diego 25 years.
Okay.
Right. So I was born and raised, was able, because it's a large fleet concentration area.
Right.
I was able to stay in San Diego. I commanded all 3 ships in San Diego. My kids were born and raised in San Diego, and you just can't beat it, right? You can't beat the weather. So I would take San Diego in a heartbeat.
And mine is the Middle East. So I was fortunate enough to command 1 ship so far, and I was in Bahrain. So just right there, just immersing myself into that culture, just understanding Arabic and experiencing Ramadan, just the different cultures that are there. It was amazing. It's something that I would never have thought that I would got to do.
What is it like to command a ship, battleship, whatever it might be, anything? What's that power feel like?
So again, it is powerful. You have privilege and you have a high position, but you earn all of that to give back to your people, right? Like, you are nothing without your people, and if you are able to lift them up to your level and make them feel of value, you're going to have an amazing ship. Having that sense of responsibility and authority over all of them, their safety when you're out deployed, is a feeling like no other. I mean, I kind of relate it to being a head coach on a football team. Mm-hmm. They're the ones in between the lines, fighting the good fight, and you're there giving them the vision, the motivation, the inspiration to go do their job.
When you said, you just commanded the one ship so far, what was day one like for you?
Day one was a little daunting, right? So we do have a fleet up process, so you do get to be second in command for a while. Yeah. You get to understand the sailors, but I took the same mentality that Captain's alluding to. I related directly to football. So at the Naval Academy, when we broke down every huddle, we said team wins on 3. When I stood in front of my sailors day one, they knew my command philosophy was team wins, right? Every letter stood for something: trust, execution, accountability, motivation. It was no different. So for me, that coaching, that mentorship, I felt I owed it to my sailors at that point, right? I owed it to be the best leader I could be and to give them whatever they needed to break down any barrier they needed for success. Because at the end of the day, we're building war fighters. At the end of the day, we could potentially be at a war. So they need to get the best out of me so that I can get the best out of them.
We are located in Waco, Texas, which is in between Austin and Dallas. Your football coach, Brian Newberry, played at Baylor. Where Baylor University is, was a GA there for a little bit, and of course now, what a win!
Which one? 2 wins.
Which one?
Because you had a hell of a year, and then beating Oklahoma in the bowl game. But the game, and it was Army had a great year. The 2 losses or whatever, and they were favored. And I remember. The run that Navy made for like almost a decade and a half where Army couldn't beat Navy. But what was that one like? Because Army was really, really highly ranked as well.
You ready, Dan?
Yeah, so I was at the game, and just seeing the look on the Army faces, like they kind of came in looking a little cocky, like they had it in the bag. And when we came out in the opening drive and took it down their throats and scored, it was amazing. So Horvath had an amazing year, and just seeing Army kind of struggle, and they were surprised and taken back because they've done that to us in previous years when we were the heavy favorites, and they were able to squeak it out. I mean, the tide turned on them, and I'm glad they got a taste of their own medicine.
What is it like for the cadets and the students, like the midshipmen at the school? When you're in that rivalry, like, as an alum, it's different.
Right, we wouldn't know because we're always on the field.
Okay,
right? But being a fan over these last several years, watching it, whether it's on the TV or whether it's at the stadium, it's their Super Bowl, right? And it's us versus them, and they're looking across. What other game is like that? Where they're looking at the entire student body of the opponent, of the hated opponent, and you're in their faces, constantly throughout the game. So it's a game within a game. Who can get more hype? Who can have the better chance and the better cheers? Who could dance the best, right? Who could be the loudest? So it's one of those sort of competitions inside of a bigger competition.
And how much is that week, especially like a reward for a very hard year of school for everybody? So, like, it's not like, look, I went to Florida State. We have the Florida game at the end of the year. But my days and your days were not the same. I can promise you that. Like, it feels to me like part of the aura around it is like, this is the week to celebrate kind of what you've accomplished over the year.
Yeah, Army Week is everything. And from day one when we show up as a midshipman, we walk down the hall, we make a right turn, we're yelling beat Army. We make a left turn, we're yelling beat Army. You look at a weight, it has beat and Army written on it. And that's from day one as the plebe. That's ingrained in your mind is beat Army. So you roll up to Army Week, even leading up to it, you know that we want to beat Army, right? Not necessarily just in football, every sport, water polo, sprint football, it doesn't matter. We want to beat Army, and we want to beat them bad in everything we do. So Army-Navy Week for football is amazing. And when you win that game, which I was fortunate enough to win all 4 years I was there, so I don't know what it's like to lose. But when you're there and you win that game, it is amazing. It is fun. It's what you strive for. It's what you've been doing since the day you showed up.
Yeah, and you said celebration. It's more of a celebration for the freshmen because it's their opportunity to have the freedom to get back at their upperclassmen. So that's all the games, the shenanigans that they're a part of, they're turning it on their upperclassmen.
Yeah. You mentioned the 4 o'clock PT, and I mean, just the what was more difficult early, the emotional or physical part of that?
For me, it was emotional. It was the mental, because I was from San Diego. I didn't have the humidity that they have in Annapolis. So, and then again, I'm away from my friends, away from my mom and my dad and my girlfriend.
All the way across the country.
Yeah, so again, the physical aspect as a football player, like, we could deal with all that, right? I couldn't deal with A, being alone, and then B, having someone yell at me who was, like, physically, like, it's superior to me, right? Like, I'm not having this little scrawny kid yell at me, to do more push-ups, or to march, with straighter legs, straighter arms, whatever the case may be. I had a hard time with people yelling at me, and I had a hard time, just being away from my family.
If that's the case, then how did you then, when you became in that position, did you learn from that on how you handled those that were serving for you?
Absolutely, right? It's about making sure people feel valued, making sure that you get the very most out of them. And, when people realize that they're cared about, that they're loved, they want to just do so much more for you. And those are one of the key lessons that I've learned in my leadership journey.
America's Navy. So tell everyone, go visit the campus. As you, Tyree, you mentioned, you fall in love with the campus. But if somebody is interested, there's a lot of different ways to get in touch, but tell us about, or give everyone an idea about the process.
Yeah, so ideally, right, so we're in an age now where technology runs the world. So Navy.com is going to be your ultimate resource, right? We can sit here and have this amazing conversation for 2 hours, and we wouldn't even crack the surface of what the Navy has to offer. So Navy.com is a resource for anybody, from guidance counselors to principals to teachers to the actual person that's thinking about joining the Navy. There's so many links, there's so many directions that it'll take you to, QR codes you can click on no matter where you are around the world. It's going to tell you exactly that first recruiting station you should go to, or exactly what interview process you put in to go to the Naval Academy or apply for ROTC. It's going to give you every wealth of knowledge that you could ever expect is right there at Navy.com. Secondarily, we do have on every social media hashtag America's Navy, right? So you find America's Navy, you put that hashtag in, and you're going to see, first of all, you're going to see this guy first, right? Because everybody in the Navy, every waterfighter in the Navy knows exactly who this person is sitting next to me. But you'll see that. You'll understand exactly what we do on a day-to-day basis and the great things that the Navy has to offer.
For those that don't understand some of the symbols or honors and medals and et cetera, explain those to everybody.
Yeah, so we both wear this pin. This is our warfighting pin. So we're surface warfare officers. We drive ships. We lead people. And we're responsible for, however many sailors are on board our ships. These are the medals that we've earned through our career. This is Command at Sea, Command Ashore, and this is stands that we're naval recruiters.
Okay.
That are winning with the wreath around.
So the wreath around, it means that we consistently have made recruiting numbers for at least 6 months.
What was the longest amount of time you were on a ship?
You mean without pulling back into port?
Yep.
So I did a 7-month deployment, and during that deployment, my very first one actually was a Somali, back when pirates were a thing.
Oh, yeah.
And I think we went about 3 months where we just were straight out. We had kind of, we did a little bit of fun while we were on there, but we did not pull into that second port until roughly 3-month mark on the back end.
You said we're a thing. That's not a thing anymore? Like, we've solved that problem?
We don't hear a lot about pirates, right? But that is not a problem that's been solved, right? We understand what's going on in the Straits of Hormuz. They take different techniques, right? We have people out there to ensure that the navigation is still free. Same with the South China Sea. So there's a lot that we're doing, and it starts with presence. It starts with us being there. So that deterrence factor has done a lot. So we don't see as much, we don't hear much about it. We don't read much about it because we have carriers all over the world, right? We have the amphibious ships over the world. We have people who understand that, hey, we might not want to mess with them right now.
Yeah. What is it like? I mean, again, like when you're a little kid and you dream about, like, you mentioned, like you start listing off all these careers, and it sounds like everything you want to do when you're 7 years old. Like fly a plane, drive a
Top Gun,
submarine.
all these movies that we grew up watching.
Yeah, all the cool stuff you can do in the Navy. Like, there's not a job. Like, you want to be a doctor, you can do it in the Navy. You want to be a lawyer, you can do it in the Navy. Have all the jobs. What was it like, getting behind the gear of the ship and, like, actually doing it, where, like, could you picture yourself as, like, a kid, like, doing that? Like,
so getting behind the rudder of a 700-foot ship is amazing, right? Like, just feeling that power and hearing the buzz of the engine is unlike anything you've ever experienced. But for me, like, the joy was getting down in the engine rooms. It was turning a wrench with these young sailors and asking them about their story, because these kids are so phenomenally bright nowadays. And, you know, the fact that they can, like, tear apart a diesel, that they can weld and lathe and, you know, be self-sustaining for 6-7 months at a time. These kids are brilliant. And just seeing them at that level, you know, working on my computer, you know, fixing my teeth, you know, you name it, they're doing it. Working on weapon systems. These kids are bright and brilliant, and just being able to watch them operate is just really is an amazing sight.
Creative problem solving.
Absolutely. That's exactly what they're doing.
Yeah. What was more pressure, Fear Factor or Wheel of Fortune?
Whoa. So, Fear Factor was it was eating, right? So I can eat anything. I'm Filipino, and like our eating stunt was like balut, like that live chicken egg. So I ate that without a heartbeat. Yeah. But Fear Factor with money on the line and just on a time limit, that was pressure for me.
So, what's Pat Sajak like?
He was awesome. So it was one of those things, like I made one of the top 50 clips, memories of that of the show. Yeah, like I got a clue within like 2 letters, and Pat came over, leaned over in front of me, and kind of was trying to see what I was looking at, and I gave him a locker room pat on the butt, and so that clip has made it. It's like in the history books. Yeah, he's great. Van is the same.
That last puzzle gives me hives sometimes when it's like RSTLNE, pick your letters, and it's just like N. And you're like, oh, great. Game's over.
You guys, first of all, we always say this, for serving our country, and it's awesome. And what you've done, Captain Commander, we appreciate what you guys continue to do, leading men out at sea or in different ways, as you mentioned. Navy.com, as simple as that. Thank you very much for your time. This is 365 Sports. We're at NFL Media Headquarters, New Orleans and Radio Row. We've had DJ Dozier and also Dr. Michael Weatherly on this show before at Radio Row, and they're back. And I just asked you, by the way, welcome both of you. If you'd gone to the game on campus, the Penn State game and SMU, and what'd you say?
Too cold.
Too cold. You played there, though.
Oh, yes. But there's a difference when you're moving.
And you're sitting. Yeah.
Have you become like, where do you live now? Have you become like Southernized where?
To a certain degree. So we live in Virginia.
Okay. All right. So you get cold. Yeah. And look, we're from Texas, and I grew up in Florida.
Right.
Like anytime something that's not that's solid falls from the sky, I start praying. I mean, I don't know what's going on. I don't understand it. So
right.
It snowed like hell here about 2 weeks ago.
Really? Oh, that's right. Yeah. We got
10
some
inches.
of that in Virginia.
I mean, like LSU Tiger Stadium covered. Like it looked as if you could have been in like Wisconsin or something like that.
Yeah, we got some of that in Virginia.
Yeah, a little bit. Not that much.
But
only 3 inches.
Not that. Okay, so Dr. Weatherly, again, sports innovation, marketing, consulting, all of the things you do, and you have to you can't blink anymore, can you? Because technology is changing so much.
Yeah, this is a conversation that we have on a daily basis. I mean, it's hard to keep up, and that's what the teams and the athletes that we work with, it's the same thing. They've always got someone pitching them the best new mousetrap, and so they don't have time to weed through all of that technology, and so they look at us as a tech scout, just like they would a scout to scout talent, and we help scout the technology, and so we help bridge the gap between those innovators that have interesting technology and then the teams and the athletes.
What are some of the things that people would know that you've brought to the world?
Yeah, can we talk about those things?
I mean, are they yeah.
I mean, a lot of
microphone a little bit closer.
A lot of wearables.
Yeah.
So and some things that you wouldn't necessarily know. Obviously, the NFL with a lot of like naming rights and things like that. So they got to be kind of careful with what goes on the body of the person. We actually are working a lot with the teams when you talk about fan engagement. So some of the technologies you might not even know, but you're like interacting with it on a daily basis or at the stadium. Yeah.
You might not even know.
Right. That's scary, right? Like
tomorrow,
think about artificial intelligence alone is like changing the way we interact with everything right now.
That is nuts. How much of playing football helps you do what you do now?
Oh, it gives a high level of application, right? And understanding the technology and how it can apply to a specific position or to the sport in general, without a doubt. And as Mike was saying, the scouting now is not just U.S. related patents and technology, but global. So he's hired a few other folks to now go after global technology, and I do mean global. So,
yeah, we've got companies in Switzerland, the UK, Israel, I mean anywhere, and we're even working with like some of the Premier League teams in English football. So it's not just NFL, it's the other football.
How did you start that part of it? Could you have imagined when all this?
Never.
Like you may be in Texas and California or maybe Georgia, or whatever, but now, I mean, that's unbelievably quick too.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a fun ride and been great to be partnered up with DJ here. Obviously, the connection to the NFL, and now we're working with MLB, NBA, and a little bit of everybody. Yeah, I mean, I grew up in a small town in northeastern North Carolina, talking about cold, hot and cold, thin blood over here. So I don't like the snow either. But yeah, I mean, now being part owner of a couple minor league sports teams, and it's been a wild ride the last few years, and I'm just happy to be here. Honestly, be partnered up with DJ.
DJ, one of the last two sports stars that we had. I mean, it was you and Dion Bowe, all like right there at the same. Brian Hunter, all kind of at the same time. I'm sure I'm probably leaving one other out, but like though you guys did that, and it's hard enough to be a professional athlete in one thing. To do it in two things is unbelievable. Now, I don't think we're seeing that as much as we are seeing like somebody like Ohtani or Travis Hunter that just never comes off the field. Do you see a little bit of what you guys did in those guys that are just special athletes that can just kind of do everything?
Yeah, no, I think Ohtani especially. I mean, what he has accomplished and what I've seen, to be. I mean, I think, let's face it, as human beings, we put labels on any kind of activity, right? Where it's easy for us to sort of put it in a box. And so when something happens and it's outside that box, it's obviously something special. When in reality, most of us, especially in the two-sport space, I played three sports growing up in high school and up through high school. Was supposed to play two in college, right? Both Bo and Dion played two in college. And so it definitely takes a little extra. But when the driving force, at least from my perspective, when the driving force is the fact that it's a game that you can have fun, and it's less work, then anything's possible. And I think, again, going back to Ohtani, being able to pitch and hit, it's something that someone decided pitchers can't hit. But when you're talented,
I mean, normally they can't. Let's be
right.
real.
Well, because they don't get any at bats, right? I mean, I've seen some hitters that can. I mean, some pitchers that can hit pretty well, but without the at bats, you just can't get better. But I love seeing things like that in athletics when you move outside that box.
Yeah, it's weird that you said somebody sometime decided, I don't want the pitchers to hit anymore.
Right.
And then, that was just the thing. And you're like, well, why would you not? Like, if they're good at it, why not let them do it?
Right.
So I'm hoping that Ohtani, creates some.
Breaks the mold almost.
Yeah, you like innovations. I hope, some innovation happens where, hey, no, I can do both.
Yeah.
Let's figure it out.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's the same thing they would say about shortstops, right? You spend so much time, or catchers, you spend so much time on defense that they don't worry about your batting average or your hitting ability. And I think that's changed as
or
well.
you can't be tall. Cal Ripken broke that mold.
That's exactly right.
Be tall,
yeah.
Right.
So when you were growing up, did you play all the sports? Because there's this big push, because if you don't do these camps, if you don't do club ball, and I hate that philosophy.
Yeah, I do too.
I want to play everything I can. And because you know what? Like someone like me, it's going to end a lot earlier than 99% of people. It's going to end earlier.
Yes.
So playing all of the sports, and I have rarely met a professional athlete that didn't do that. But you hear all this pressure you got to go to all these camps, you got to go to all this. What's your philosophy on that?
I don't like it. I mean,
we agree on this, so yeah.
Yeah, I don't like that because there's so much benefit in variety, right? And I know I have former teammates that are adults, obviously, and they have kids that have played baseball, for example, was a pitcher, and they've already had Tommy John surgery at 14. Why? Because it's overusage.
Yep.
And so you're playing, high school, you're playing club ball or travel ball, and then you've got another team you're playing for, right? So if you're a pitcher and
sometimes at the same time.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. So all the activity is not necessarily all positive, especially if you're a pitcher.
Do you think that velocity now has gotten a little out of control. Like, Kurt Schilling was on the show yesterday, and he was about, 95, 96? That's plenty fast.
Right.
It's hard to hit, right?
Right.
Yeah. Now, I know 107 is hard to hit, but Kurt Schilling, had a long career. These other guys are having surgery, every 2 years because they're hitting 105. Well, that's cool, but is it physically sustainable by human standards? I don't think it is.
They're throwers now, not pitchers.
Right, right.
Well, the one thing we can all agree on is humans aren't machines.
Yeah.
So at some point it has to plateau. I have no idea where that is. To imagine that someone could throw it at 107.
Yeah, I sometimes wonder, the jugs gun, or even at stadiums when they would put the speed up like 98, 90.
Yeah, 99.
And I started
like a
wondering
big
if it's like I always blame the police officer who stops me. You've got one of those things that's 5 miles an hour above what really I was doing. That didn't work very well. But
well, just out of curiosity, was the toughest pitcher you ever faced, was he a fireballer, or was it somebody like Maddox who could tie you in knots throwing 88 miles an hour?
Yeah, no, I hated the heat.
Yeah, okay.
Especially the guys that were tall.
Yeah.
And by the time they release the ball, they're in your kitchen.
Downhill,
right?
Yeah.
Right. But no, that along with the left-handed changeup was rough for me.
So Glavine was not your favorite?
No. And, I never faced Glavine, but I did face the Braves in spring training once.
Okay.
I forget the pitcher's name, but that's actually when Dion and I met. But no, I mean, that left-handed changeup was a mess for me.
speaking of Dion, and I want to get into the fact you own a couple of professional teams. I don't care what level it is. That's just so cool. It's been pretty damn nice story what's happened with him in Colorado. Like they blew up early and did so well, and then of course they came back to earth. But then this year they made some changes. They tweaked it. They got more, and had a nice run. They got beat up by BYU, but they had a nice run. Your thoughts about him as a head coach in football?
Well, you think about it, the fact that he played two sports, right? All the success that he had in both arenas, his personality. He's relentless. He wants to find the way to success, and he's going to do it because, any of us that want to be successful at anything, the part of the key is realizing that success doesn't knock on your door. You got to go knock on it, and if it doesn't open, then you've got to knock it down. And if you can't knock it down, you got to go around. And so that relentlessness, I think, is what Dion has. And so he's going to find a way to be successful at whatever he's doing because of that, in my opinion.
Is that what you had to do to get in the business world? Can you?
Absolutely.
I mean, did you ever lose? Did you ever? You have to have failure before you can understand maybe what you need to do to get better, and you just kind of.
Yeah, I mean, I had that athletic background. I played baseball in college. I played baseball and football in high school. So, I mean, that was built into me as well. And once it was all over for me in college, because I had hopes of playing pro and it didn't work out like DJ did, I was like, I got to do something else. And that's how I got in the business world. And I still have that fight mentality on a daily basis. I'm waking up at 4:30. I'm grinding. I want to keep growing my business, and that's where we have such a good partnership.
So what's it like owning those, being the guy who's one of the decision makers?
It's wild, man. I got to tell you, I say this all the time. So I have part ownership. I had part ownership in the Hickory Crawdads. So part of the Rangers organization. We got a World Series ring out of that one. And so that organization actually got bought out. So that was as of last year. But I still also have ownership in the Norfolk Admirals hockey team in the ECHL. We made a good run at the Kelly Cup last year. And we're having an amazing season this year, by the way. And my business partner, Patrick Cavanaugh there, he's a former NHL guy. I mean, he is legit. And I always tell this story. It's a local team. And my granddad used to take me to those games when I was a little boy. I used to sit in section 214, top row, like I'm talking nosebleed seats because we couldn't afford those seats. And now we've got a suite on the ice right by the opposing bench where we can give them heck all day long. And I'm like right there in the middle of all of it and part of the team. And just to go from like that nosebleed seat to where I am now, I mean, I just feel so blessed and thank God every day I wake up, honestly.
How big is your company?
So we have about, across all the businesses I have, we have almost 200 employees. So, and I have several other different businesses, but that's about how big we are.
How do you have like someone that you probably are pretty much in control because you get up 4:30, all that, but do you have somebody that has to make sure they keep you on track of where you're supposed to be?
Absolutely, for every one of the businesses.
Those, right?
And also my wife really keeps me on track.
Yeah.
Absolutely. No, I mean, all the businesses have very, good systems and processes in place, and we have amazing employees. And they're the ones that keep it all going, honestly.
All right, be honest. Have you ever gone to a meeting you thought it was for a minor league baseball team, but it was for something else?
Yeah, absolutely. I got to tell you, I show up for stuff all the time. I'm like, where am I supposed to be? That's why I need the help.
That's awesome, though. I mean,
I don't know how he does it.
And you've done it in a short amount of time.
Yeah.
How did you guys meet now? I don't know if we've ever told that story.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so I was consulting with another company,
Okay.
and they were exploring the opportunity to move into the government space. And so Mike and I had a mutual contact, and so I was reaching out to a couple firms, consulting firms, for government contracting. And this gentleman recommended Mike's company, C5BDI. And so we hired them. And so he and I started working together. And I, quickly realized one of the reasons why they were having success. I mean, Mike's work ethic, as you're learning, is second to none. So from that point.
I'll never forget that day, man. I was sitting at the bank, actually, in a chair with my wife, Sierra, and I got a call from John, and he's like, hey, have you ever heard of DJ Dozier? And I was like, yes, I've heard of DJ Dozier. Mm-hmm. That dude's a local legend. I knew all about DJ. He's like, I'm going to hook you guys up. I think you can do some cool stuff together. And then you had actually mentioned him in your book.
Right.
Yeah. So in your book you wrote. Yeah. Yeah, we have a podcast that we're doing now. We're on the Goodview Network. It's called Decide to Dominate. It's based on DJ's book. I mean, that's blowing up. It's faith-based. Mm-hmm. So we were a different network last year, but we moved over to this faith-based platform. So we're trying to get the message out about that, faith on the field and everything going on. So
I love Decide to Dominate.
Yeah.
That's intimidating, and yet that's also passionate, I guess, or whatever words we could use to that. That's awesome.
Yeah,
I asked you earlier about the game, and you didn't go, it's too cold. But Penn State has kind of always been there, but they haven't been able to push through it. It's been a while. And now last year they did, and now they get the defensive coordinator from Ohio State and pay him $3 million.
Big move.
And it seems like that they've kind of had enough. They're good, but they kind of had enough. They're right there on the edge. Is that what you see too?
Oh, absolutely. And a big part of that is not just the coaching staff, but it's the supporting cast. And what I mean by that, I'm talking about Pat Kraft, the athletic director. He's an absolute go-getter. Mm-hmm. And, here's a former middle linebacker from Indiana, and he's got that mentality. So he's going to be relentless. Speaking of relentlessness, he's going to be relentless in going after and having success at the highest level. He wants a championship team, obviously, but he's going to go out and get the things done in order to put the team in a position to get there.
Isn't it weird how you guys met, and then here you are, and things are going so great?
It's wild. It's wild. Third year in a row, and it's just been great to meet people like you guys.
Yeah,
and appreciate everything.
It's always been good to see you, too. SportsInnovationX.com. Again, all of what they've done, the books, all of what you continued luck, man. You are ahead of the game, and you don't lose the edge because you want to make sure you never let someone catch you.
Exactly,
right?
exactly.
DJ Dozier, Dr. Michael Weatherly. You have
how many people caught DJ in the first place?
Yeah, that's
exactly.
Hell of a player. Golly, hell of an athlete. We are live at Super Bowl 59 week, NFL Media Headquarters at Radio Row.
Hi, I'm Mark Stewart with Bird Colgan Ford. It's that time of year, it's football season. Bird Colgan Ford is a proud supporter of the best high school football right here in Central Texas. BK Ford is proud to sell the #1 selling truck in Texas, the F-Series truck, 47 years in a row. Come see the largest showroom in Texas and experience better at Bird Colgan Ford.
Edward Jones Financial Advisors Ben Erlinson, Brad Wilson, and Cam Heathcott understand these are difficult and changing times we live in, but they know how important your financial investments are to you. So is your financial advisor staying in touch with you and helping you navigate today's financial climate? Invest with Edward Jones Financial Advisors Ben Erlinson, Chuck Verno, Brad Wilson, and Cam Heathcott, who invest their time and experience back to you and your money. And like coaching athletes, investing money is about time, patience, and encouragement. Contact Ben Erlinson at 254-759-8533. Brad Wilson's location at 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, and Cam Heathcott in Conroe. Edward Jones Financial Advisors, Ben Erlinson, Brad Wilson, and Cam Heathcott, proud sponsors of 365 Sports. Edward Jones, making sense of investing, member SIPC. Alan Samuels House of Travel is a full-service travel agency with highly experienced travel consultants plus support staff with over a combined 150 years in the travel business. They are ready to take care of any travel situation for you, your family, and your business, and with the kind of knowledge to complete a seamless itinerary trip start to finish. They will search for the best deal to accommodate your budget from air to cars, ship to shore, hotel, and even meeting space. Name a destination and they've been there. They know the places to go, and international and missionary travel is one of their unique specialties. Alan Samuels House of Travel, celebrating 50 years in business. Call Connie, Sherry, Linda, or Bambi at 254-776-2560 or find them on Facebook or at houseoftravelwaco.com.
Parenting is full of surprises.
You never know what to expect.
So after our son was born, I called my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent to set up a life insurance policy in case something happened to me.
Sawyer is now 2.
And we'll soon have a sister. There's no one else I would trust with protecting my family.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Rolling, Mahomes, he can keep it, he can get there, he's in for the touchdown.
Live from Radio Row for Super Bowl 59 in New Orleans, this is 365 Sports. Radio Row coverage is brought to you by Alan Samuels House of Travel, the official travel sponsor of 365 Sports. Now here's David Smoke and Paul Catalina.
You know, over the years at Super Bowl and Radio Row, this being my 32nd, and it was probably about 15, 18 years ago, the Wounded Warrior Project became a staple of Radio Row. And we've had unbelievable veterans from all the military and then players who were here. Brian and Natalie Vines join us, who are a part of the Wounded Warrior Project and much, much more. Wow, this is great. And that program, to me, I loved it. And I think Dick Butkus initially and Mike Ditka and all them were some of the ones. So you've been through it. You guys have both fought for our country. Congratulations. Thank you very much for doing so. What are you trying to let people know more about besides, I know, PTSD and much more of that?
Well, I think, first of all, thank you for having us on. And just a little bit about Nally and myself. I spent 28 years in the Army, and Nally spent 21 years in the Army, both those with multiple combat tours. Nally was injured over there, and when she came home, really I became her full-time caregiver.
Okay.
She was medically retired. I retired so I could take care of her 24/7. And it was through programs like Wounded Warrior Project and through their Odyssey program, which the NFL supports, that really helped us in our communication skills with both of us dealing with that. And it turned what could have been a tragedy into a love story. And this past November, we've been married for 25 years.
That's awesome. Congratulations very much. What would you be if you had never met him?
I think I would. I'd be lost. When I met him, we met at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, in the airborne unit, and it was love at first sight. And we followed each other throughout our whole career through many separations, and we actually had a 3-year separation where it was bounced back and forth through military assignments, through deployments, back and forth. And our faith, our love is what made it happen. I don't think I would have made it without him. You know, through my injuries, through PTSD, through my medical situations, through my suicide attempts. It was him stuck with me through it all. Without the help of Wounded Warrior Project and their mental health programs, through their Odyssey, through the Odyssey, love language and their faith programs, I wouldn't have made it without Brian. We did this stuff together. We did the programs together. And without him, I wouldn't have made it.
Brian, my father was a Vietnam vet, and he suffered from PTSD that he did not get treated until very later on in his life. And it changed everything about, like, he became a different person, then he became himself again after he went through the programs. I think it's a very arduous process, as you guys know, but the reward on the other side is so good because you get to be yourself again. What would you say to veterans who are afraid to go in there? Because I think my dad was a little bit afraid, and then he found that, like, oh, no, I'm certainly not alone.
I think we found that when a soldier or any service member comes back from combat, that whether they identify or not, they most likely have some form or some degree of PTSD. And the first thing that a lot of our medical professionals do is subscribe to them medications, antidepressants, anxiety medications, sleep medications. The service member begins to feel isolated, depressed, and it starts this downward spiral, which unfortunately at the bottom is suicide. And one of the things that Wounded Warrior Project does so well is that they break that cycle, that downward cycle, and lets the service member know that they're not alone, and helps them get out of this isolation, helps them get out of this feeling of hopelessness through programs like Project Odyssey that helps them deal with combat trauma. And that's one of the reasons we're here today, is because through the NFL, through their Salute to Service program, they fund nonprofits like Wounded Warrior Project that is having a deep and meaningful impact on the lives of our service members returning home.
If you don't mind, because we want to make sure we open this up to those who aren't doing well, and you weren't doing well. And did you actually try to take your life?
Yes, I actually tried to take my life six times. The last time I took my life, I actually took his 9mm across from the VA. I had an appointment that day. Unfortunately, the VA called me. I had taken enough anxiety, depression medications that knocked me out, but they actually heard me load and cock the weapon. It actually knocked me out to where they found me unconscious with the weapon in my hand. They incubated me, took me to the hospital. I think when I got out of the hospital, I read the report, which was written in the VA notes. I woke up at 2 o'clock in that morning when I read it. I woke my husband up crying in his arms. The next day I made that decision. I was on so many anti-anxiety, depression medicines that I quickly made the decision to stop all those medications cold turkey against anything that the VA would recommend, except for my seizure medications. Mm-hmm. And 3 days later, Brian said, I'm back to Natalie. I reached out to Wounded Warrior Project for their mental health programs. There was one in Boston, Massachusetts called Home Base. They sent me there with my caregiver. I went to the 2-week program. Later on, I went to a Road Hope program that they had offered in Chicago. After that, I never looked back. I learned coping skills to better help myself. I developed a support system through Wounded Warrior program that connected me with other veterans, that I now have a list of 5 personal veterans that I call on. I now talk to Brian, which I wasn't able to talk to before, because, you know, when you're married to another service member who goes through the same PTSD symptoms, you don't want to share that with him because he's sharing the same stuff. And it's very hard to share that with him. And we learn to communicate that together. So you develop those through Wounded Warrior programs and their activities, their sporting events, and through their Project Odyssey. Just you learn to develop those skills to communicate. And I learned to do that. Without their programs and without the NFL support and their contributions to those programs, I would have never been able to do that. And ever since 2017, I have never looked back. I've never had a suicidal ideation attempt. I use those coping skills daily. I was able to get a service dog that helped me through that. Just never looked back. And I have that support. I have my husband Brian. I have the Wounded Warrior Project. If I ever have those problems again, I know where to go to.
Well, clearly, you're here for a reason.
That's correct.
I mean, you tried a lot of things and it didn't work, and that's a message from somewhere else saying like, no, I need you helping people out, and that's an amazing story. What about the you always kind of find second families in life. Is that your second family? Like, is that what it is? You know, you have the family you're born with and the family you find. Is this Wounded Warrior, has it been kind of the family you found?
Yes, I have a new purpose in life, and that's to live. And that's to live for not only the veterans that died on my watch, that sacrificed their lives. I have a purpose to live for those veterans that I served with, my husband, my family. Have a new purpose in life for fitness, for activity. I love working out. The programs that they offered me with the outdoor activities has gotten me out of isolation. I have a new purpose in life, which I didn't have when I got out of the military. I had no purpose. I lost that sense of purpose. I lost that sense of identity. And now I've gained that back through Wounded Warrior Project.
So you've told your story, which is amazing, and thank God. You had PTSD as well. What levels did you suffer through, or what was some of what you dealt with?
So dealing with just exposure in combat to losing soldiers, to being put into very difficult situations as to the environment I was in and what I was doing at the time. I really didn't self-identify as having PTSD, even though I was displaying all the symptoms. And another way that I dealt with my PTSD is by hiding them and masking them so I could be supporting her and focused on her, which I learned later on that was a very bad thing to do, and that you can't hide it, you can't push it down into the deepest depths of your body. It's going to come back, and it's going to come back at its own time, which it has. And we were on a trip in the Bahamas going scuba diving, and that's just when I broke. I was just in a circle of veterans, and that's when I cried in her arms and told her, the things that I'd seen and the things that I'd done. And it was like just this big weight lifted off of my shoulders. It was something I was scared of. I was fearful of doing that. But once I did it.
Of breaking?
Yeah. Because I didn't want my burden to become her burden.
Right.
But once it happened, I mean, it was just, it was life-changing. And I think it brought us closer together. Because I think that's something she wanted from me, is to tell her my story, which I was very protective of, afraid I'd be judged on it. But it happened,
I hear that, and my father was in the hospital. It was about 2 years before he died. He was in the hospital, and we were just sitting there, and every time he was in the hospital, he'd like to watch Lonesome Dove. So we're watching. You guys are from Texas. I'm sure you've seen Lonesome Dove. It's a requirement to live in the state. So we're watching Lonesome Dove. I'm going to change the DVD out, and he goes, "Hey, before we start the other one, I gotta tell you something. My whole life, I've been fascinated by history and the military and all these things. And so he had this photo albums from Vietnam, and I would always ask him questions. And even when I was a kid, I always felt like he was like leaving parts of the story out. And my mom would be like, look, it's different. He just doesn't want to. It was really bad. Like, it's not, he has good memories of the guys. His best friend was with him in Vietnam. I mean, they were all like, I knew him, and he's like, they just don't want to talk about it. And then he had that moment where he told me everything he'd seen and all these different things. And he said, hey, there's a file, like you can read the whole story and all that. And it just, like, it changed the last 2 years of, like, there he is again. Like, he'd come out of it, but it's that same moment. And that's really interesting to hear you say that like, that is the moment of just releasing yourself from these things that you saw or you experienced that weren't your fault, or, that just are part of being a service person. And that's amazing. And I hope more veterans hear this and say, you know what, it's okay, because people are, I'm not, again, experiencing this in a vacuum.
We have veterans who have been everywhere that watch our show, subscribers of our afternoon talk show. And sometimes whenever we bring up the military or whatever, they'll start kind of communicating together. And there have been some that have been through, again, excruciating times, brutal times. I don't think anyone who's again, I'm a military brat, and my father was never really on the front line. He was at Tan Son Nhut Air Force Base in Vietnam, but that was it. Very fortunate. Do people really understand what you all do see and what you've been through and what our military does?
I'll answer that first, and you may have a different perspective, Nally, but it's hard. Excuse me. It's hard to understand how someone is unless you've walked in their boots.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can see things on TV and you pass judgment on, what's real and what's not real. But reality is totally different for one person than it may be from another person that's looking at that person. So I would say there's big differences. What would you say?
I was watching a TV show the other day, a reality TV show, and there was someone that said, I'm always in control. And it was funny because in combat, you're never in control. You're always in reaction mode. And you're always on the fly, and you have to be able to adapt and overcome. And that's one of those things people don't understand. And when we come back, a lot of times people don't understand that veterans kind of lost that sense of purpose. We've lost that identity. We isolate a lot more. Our anxiety's up a little bit more. Our sense of life is a little bit different. And so we're trying to find our place in society again. And just being accepted again is very difficult. And we don't know how to be in that civilian environment again. And just being able to integrate again is very difficult for us. And I know from myself and even for Brian, it was just very difficult to just all of a sudden pop out of the military, very active, 24/7 environment, and come back and go, what are we doing now?
Mm-hmm.
How do we act? We're so sense of going, and both of us coming from, I was able to serve enlisted as an NCO and then become an officer, go from that level to all of a sudden nothing to do and be in those leadership roles and be in those combat roles, and all of a sudden nothing. It was very hard for us.
It sounds, and this is why the NFL reaches you guys. Obviously it's different, but it's similar, because when you're a football player, you're a football player, you're a football player, you're a football player, and then just like you guys, you don't necessarily always get to pick when it's over. The lucky ones get to pick, I'm retiring today, I'm doing this, I'm fine, everything worked out for me. The ones who have to go through it tougher are the ones who are told, that's it for you, you can't do this anymore. So there's a lot of shared experiences there that I think the two sides can really find some common ground and help each other with.
Yes, we actually are lucky to have association with a couple of NFL players, and I think its similarity to them is that they get injured They come out, and now they're trying to find a sense of purpose again, because here they are playing, they're active, and all of a sudden they're injured. They come out. What do they do next? And it's very similar to us.
Iraq, Mosul, were you in the Middle East? Is that what you?
So actually, we were both in Mosul at the same time. I had another tour that I was in Baghdad. You had a tour that you were in Baghdad also.
Correct.
And I was in Desert Storm.
Thank you both. And to have the ability to share the stories is also allowing you to kind of get back into a flow. And the story, there again, veterans who have not reached out to Wounded Warriors. This has been going on since like 2012 with Radio Row. We've had guests on. Thank you both, first of all, for telling your story, but serving our country. We love you both. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you for having us.
We are live in New Orleans, Super Bowl 59, Radio Row.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
If you want quality and personalized service for all your air conditioning and heating needs, call Tradesman Services. They're a family-owned and operated company that has served Texans for over 30 years. Tradesman offers maintenance plans starting at just $12 per month and a free service call for all new customers. They're also experts in geothermal design, installation, and service. Visit them online at coolingwaco.com.
Priced right both day and night at Richard Car in Texas. Trucks built for you, red, white, and blue at Richard Car in Texas. Cars that zoom with lots of room at Richard Car in Texas. Count on us, a dealer to trust at Richard Car in Waco, Texas.
Alan Samuels House of Travel is a full-service travel agency with highly experienced travel consultants plus support staff with over a combined 150 years in the travel business. They are ready to take care of any travel situation for you, your family, and your business, and with the kind of knowledge to complete a seamless itinerary trip start to finish. They will search for the best deal to accommodate your budget from air to cars, ship to shore, hotel, and even meeting space. Name a destination and they've been there. They know the places to go, and international and missionary travel is one of their unique specialties. Alan Samuels House of Travel, celebrating 50 years in business. Call Connie, Sherry, Linda, or Bambi at 254-776-2560 or find them on Facebook or at houseoftravelwaco.com.
Here's Barkley, a little shovel, looking for an edge, gets it, Saquon Barkley, first down, Barkley, oh! Saquon, touchdown!
Live from Radio Row for Super Bowl 59 in New Orleans, this is 365 Sports. Radio Row coverage is brought to you by Alan Samuels House of Travel, the official travel sponsor of 365 Sports. Now, here's David Smoke and Paul Catalina.
Former All-Pro linebacker Al Smith with us, 365 Sports. We're in New Orleans. Paul Catalina, too. I'm David Smoke. You know, the low T, let's go with that. Let's start with that. It affects your mood, your energy, your sleep habits, your sex drive. It could be ED. It could be your focus. Like, it's got the full meal deal.
It got everything. One thing about Low T in this partnership, it's a great partnership in that we're able to keep our energy levels up. Just being here, Radio Row, walking around, you know how it is. I mean, at the end of the week, you're ready to go sit in the corner somewhere.
Right.
So, you know, you keep your energy level up, your libido, your mood, all those things are something that helps us with everyday life to keep us vibrant, to keep us strong, to keep us in a place where we can be productive, not just for ourselves, but for our families.
So, Al, how did you get involved with low T? And there's low T centers all over the place, right? And people can just look and find if they're in their area?
Yes. They look for it in the area. They're in 10 different states. But at the same time, I'm in Nashville, Tennessee. They're big in Texas as well. As a man, you want to keep your low T levels up. For the reasons that I described earlier. We have a partnership. I get my blood pressure checked. Keep my levels strong. It keeps my energy level up. I mean, from being a former player, being real in tune with your health. And in retirement, a lot of times you see a lot of guys that go the opposite direction. They let their health go. And I was wanting to be real intentional, just like I may have been on the field, to be able to be on top of those type of things, because your health is your wealth, and I'm very, very, very passionate about that.
I'm curious, because you were an Oiler and a Titan, like you were there in the transition. How do the former players who went through that, like, what city do you identify with as, like, I'm of, or is it the organization that you're kind of representing?
Well, at this point, it's the organization I'm representing, because the team moved, obviously.
Yeah.
There was a time when Houston got the Texans, when the Oilers moved and they went to Tennessee. The Texans wanted their own identity. They didn't really resonate with the Oilers. Tennessee got this new team. And they wanted to resonate with their new team. They didn't care about the Oilers or Houston or what have you. So you had a generation of players, whether it be the Earl Campbells, the Dan Pastorittis, the Ken Burrows of the world, all those Mike Renfro's, all those guys from that's like a lost era. That was a great era. Evan Bethea, Robert Bazile, all these guys that don't have a home. I mean, they didn't resonate in Houston, and in Tennessee didn't. So what Tennessee Titans did, Amy Adams, which is Bud's daughter, was able to bring the alumni together. Now they have a Oiler Titan alumni, and it's combined, and the guys are really appreciative of that.
Yeah, that was that late 70s Love You Blue, when Earl and Pastorini, Brazil, and all the others that they had a great run. Boy, they knocked on the Super Bowl door.
Beating on it.
Beating on it. Well, in fact,
they still say Renfro caught that pass in the back of his eye.
And you know what? I happened to be watching. It was like one of those Twitter clips or whatever. He absolutely got both feet down.
Oh, yeah.
And they took forever to try to do it. And I wonder, hey, guys, I think he got both feet in bounds, but we're in Pittsburgh, and these people are crazy. He did get both feet. The replay showed that he did.
Yeah, definitely. They definitely showed that he did. Obviously he's in the past, but that's the difference in being in the Super Bowl and not being in the Super Bowl.
Okay, when you were in the league, which running back was the one that during the week you're going to be like, this is going to be a long week?
Well, during the week, going against Barry Sanders for me was very tough. I mean, Barry wasn't like a huge back, but he was quick. He was powerful, low center of gravity, and you couldn't see him. He would hide behind the line, the offensive lineman, and then he was so fast and explosive that he would just explode through the hole, and it'd be so tough to get him. I would have to say Barry. I like him as a player. I like his demeanor. I like his professionalism. He always played hard. He always gave you his best. And I respect, some people gave him static for retiring, but I can respect him for leaving on his terms, and he still had a lot in the tank.
Did you see the documentary that he did about it with his sons? It was on Amazon. I highly recommend it. It's the first time he's really told the story, even to his sons. Like, he kind of kept it from them, and just how he had these kind of moments when the light came on and said, look, I don't have this in me anymore. Hey. And that, I think that's a very admirable thing.
And I can understand that as a former player. It gets to the point where, hey, if I can't give my best, if I can't give my all to the fans and give you the product that that you're yearning for, that you're looking for, well, then you're cheating the game.
And your teammates too, right?
You're cheating the game, your teammates, you're cheating yourself. So I can respect a man that leaves on his terms, and and has conviction to it.
I've heard that if a player starts thinking about retirement, they're retired. Is that true?
Somewhat, I would say, because of the fact that when if it's in the back of your mind, every little thing, a hard day, a tough situation could put you in a place where I really don't want to do this anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And I can understand that when it gets late in your career and different injuries and different things like that, it gives you an opportunity. It really makes it tough for you.
Al Smith with us, Houston Oilers, Tennessee Titans at Radio Row, New Orleans, Super Bowl 59.
You went through an interesting array of coaches too, right? With Jack Pardee, was it right when you first, was he there when you started?
Yes. No, Jerry Glanville started
Jerry
out.
Glanville, oh yeah.
And then
Who was
Jack
the character?
Pardee.
Yeah.
And then half a season, interim Jeff Fisher.
Okay, yeah. So, yeah, you had – okay, so when you're a rookie and you go into the league and Jerry Glanville is your head coach, one of the most bizarre coaches ever, in a good way, I guess. I mean, like, I guess it depends on your perspective. He was kind of a crazy guy. What were your impressions of him?
Of Jerry?
Yeah.
Well, Jerry was a very interesting guy. Obviously, Elvis. He probably still leaving tickets for Elvis Elvis at the games. And he was a good coach. He had a different approach, but he was a winner. He liked the physical style of defense, and he was tough on players, but at the same time, he was fair.
He was different. He was kind of like Johnny Cash of football coaches or something like that, the country singer.
Exactly.
Well,
yeah. Well, he was always in black, so that was his kind of his
that
thing.
was his, like the bad guy. Now, Al, you played a good amount of time. There's, the average NFL career, you always hear it depends on what position, but could be 3.5 years if you're lucky. You played over a decade. How did you maintain your health? And were there times when, man, you were getting beat up and wondered how much longer you'd go?
You say how many times?
Yeah, was it at the end of your career when it was time? You played a long time. That takes a commitment physically and mentally.
Yeah, well, when the injuries, when the injuries catch up, and the injuries start, pounding on you, and you start feeling the injuries, that's the tough part about it. I mean, it gives you, it puts you in a place that makes you really think about retirement, gives you the opportunity to do things, and it just makes it tougher and tougher to come back and do all those practices. Because it wears on you mentally, it wears on you physically, and when all of a sudden you cannot give your best or be at your best, because that game is not a game that you can play with. Football is a game you have to be at your best. Otherwise, you cheat yourself, you get hurt, and it can be very detrimental to yourself. So if you're not fully committed to it, it's time to move away from the game.
The NFL alumni, an organization you are very involved in, and really, I mean, I'm impressed every year with the different things that they do to keep on to make sure that players are taken care of, that there's events that it's a really cool organization.
Yes, our mission is caring for community, caring for kids, caring for our own. One of the things that we do out in the community, we talk about obesity, we talk about cancer. We're talking about shingles. One thing about cancer, especially colorectal cancer, we as men, getting our screenings. If you have history in your family, getting screening early, all those type of things are big, and we're trying to promote that. We try to promote it to the community being our fans that cheered for us or booed at us or whatever the case may be, but we resonate with each other. But this is a chance for a lot of our players, some of our ambassadors are Warren Moon, Javon Curse, Chris Johnson, Blaine Bishop. We have a lot of Neil O'Donnell. We have a lot of guys that are really passionate about this to really be able to give back and preach the health and wellness aspect and give that back to the community that has served us so well, and it's a way for us to serve them as well.
Did you have someone do that with you when you were in L.A., right?
I grew up in
LA. You grew up in L.A. and then went Utah State. Did you have anybody that touched you a little bit as far as that came back and tried to give back or not?
Yeah, well, I had a few guys that really kind of taught me. Well, it started out in a couple of different dynamics as far as going from that amateur to being a professional, teaching how to be a professional, how to conduct yourself, and that carried on into the community. As far as a lot of guys don't resonate when they're young and don't get the whole community thing, because a lot of guys are like, I'm going to do my job and go home and kind of be in your bubble. But as you know, the community are where sponsors are. Community are where fans are. Community are where all these individuals that are potential employers down the road. All these different things. And once you understand that and go from an amateur to a professional and understand those dynamics, I was very fortunate to have an older brother who was drafted before me, a couple years ahead of me. So I was able to be exposed a little bit.
Right.
And I got exposed to what professionals look like. He played with the Broncos, and they had, like the he was a linebacker too. He had like Tom Jacksons and Randy Gradishars and all those guys back in the day, Jim Ryan. If you remember some of those old guys from back in the day. So I was able to kind of see them going into my last years of college, and it gave me the opportunity to really see what professionalism looked like.
Man, I remember getting to know you a little bit when you were with the Oilers. Great to see you again. Keep up the great work. We really appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate you guys having me on. Thank you very much. But everybody get checked, stay healthy, and your health is your wealth.
Well, I mean, you mentioned you got to get your every part of your body. I mean,
exactly.
And you catch it before it becomes a problem. Al Smith, NFL All-Pro linebacker, Pro Bowl linebacker for the longest time, too, with us on 365 Sports.
In Texas, there's pea-size hail and baseball-size hail. Guess which one hit our house? We didn't even know where to begin, but we called our Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent, and he was so reassuring. He knew exactly what to do to get our house back into shape and our lives back to normal. Now, we're even more thankful for the roof over our heads.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Ideal MRI is a small family business right here in Central Texas. We're open to support you while lowering the cost of healthcare bills. When you need an MRI, ask your doctor for an Ideal MRI. Visit us at idealmri.com or call us at 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game. Edward Jones Financial Advisors Ben Erlinson, Brad Wilson, and Cam Heathcott understand these are difficult and changing times we live in, but they know how important your financial investments are to you. So is your financial advisor staying in touch with you and helping you navigate today's financial climate? Invest with Edward Jones Financial Advisors Ben Erlinson, Chuck Verno, Brad Wilson, and Cam Heathcott, who invest their time and experience back to you and your money. And like coaching athletes, investing money is about time, patience, and encouragement. Contact Ben Erlinson at 254-759-8533. Brad Wilson's location at 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, and Cam Heathcott in Conroe. Edward Jones Financial Advisors, Ben Erlinson, Brad Wilson, and Cam Heathcott, proud sponsors of 365 Sports. Edward Jones, making sense of investing, member SIPC.
Experience the excitement of Truck Month at Allen Samuels, the perfect opportunity to drive home a true champion. The Ram has earned the prestigious title of 2025 Motor Trend Truck of the Year, and we're marking the occasion with unbeatable deals on new Ram 1500, Ram 2500, and more. Whether you seek power, luxury, or extraordinary capability, Allen Samuels has the perfect truck tailored just for you. But these deals won't last long. Allen Samuels, your trusted truck partner.
Come by, let's be friends.
Here's Barkley, a little shovel, looking for an edge, gets it, Saquon Barkley, first down, Barkley, oh! Saquon, touchdown!
Live from Radio Row for Super Bowl 59 in New Orleans, this is 365 Sports. Radio Row coverage is brought to you by Allen Samuels House of Travel, the official travel sponsor of 365 Sports. Now, here's David Smoke and Paul Catalina.
This is my 32nd Radio Row appearance. First was 92, Century Plaza Hotel in Los Angeles, Cowboys and Bills. And every year but like 2 since that time, you have been on this. Roman Gabriel, by the way, Roman Gabriel III is with us on 365 Sports. How many have you been to?
David, I got to be up there with you in terms of seniority because my first one was 2 years later in 94.
Oh, okay.
So all the guys that I knew and you knew from the newspaper era that were there since Super Bowl I, a lot of those guys obviously aren't around anymore. The one guy I think that's senior to us that I know of that was newspaper, then he went to ESPN is Sal Paolantonio.
Yeah. But I always remembered seeing you on Radio Row, and my age of being 65, for me, the years that I remember more than anything else, the 60s and 70s, your father was a hell of a quarterback. And watched him play. He and Joe Kapp were big physical quarterbacks back in the day. So let's get into Youth Foundation and what you're doing and some of the projects you're involved with.
Well, I'm here this week. A lot of things going on, but the number one priority is our Sold Out Youth Foundation, which I've been involved with my wife since 2008. We started it as a drug and alcohol abstinence program, an assembly program for K through 12. Public and private schools, and then, as you guys know, 5 years ago, the fentanyl, poisoning situation became worse and worse, and so we started a fentanyl education. It was the first fentanyl education public school program in schools, and now we're 100% online post-COVID. So now we can reach hundreds of thousands of kids as opposed to being in one place at one time. So it's an actual online phone platform that we provide working with the computer systems at schools. And the schools obviously can get hold of the parents every day, the staff, administration, and students every day. So it's a perfect venue to get that information, that life-saving information, in everybody's hands in a district. They don't have to find a website. They don't have to go somewhere. It's mandatory. The student portion is done in health class, homeroom, or PE Health. So it's about a 7-minute video presentation for the kids where when they come out of it, they know everything they need to know about the poison fentanyl. And as you guys probably know, it's the number one killer of teenagers in our country. We had over 114,000 people die last year. Over 5 years, over 500,000 have died from this, and 90% of them are preventable, accidental. It's 50 to 500 times more powerful than heroin. It's odorless, tasteless. It's cheap. And it can be in food, it can be in liquid form, it can be in vape, marijuana, fake pharmaceutical pills that look exactly like a Xanax that you would take at home. So we're not talking about a drug problem, guys. We're talking about a poison in which people don't know that they're getting it. So a lot of our teenagers are on their phones, which is what they do, and people like Snapchat dastardly allow for these fake fentanyl pills to be sold directly to the kids through their social network. They get around the safety protocol. And college students, for example, if you're, we remember all of us staying up for finals, pulling an all-nighter. Well, they go, hey, I can buy this Xanax cheap online, keep myself awake all week, I'll be good. But they don't realize they're buying a fake pill that's pressed with fentanyl. And so 7 out of 10 of those pills that are purchased online have fentanyl, and 42% of those have enough to kill you. And if we were to take a grain of salt and put it on our finger, that would be enough to kill 1 or 2 people. That's how powerful this is. Final statistic, I heard this the other day, I couldn't believe it. There have been more deaths in the last 4 years from fentanyl than all of the soldiers who died in World War II for the U.S. Think about that.
Yeah, you don't have to say much about that. It speaks for itself. That's
so just like you said, 7-minute video of basic things of like, hey, don't buy a pill from someone on the phone.
So the first message is we need to tell you what fentanyl is. If you don't know it, we're going to tell you right now so you know. Number 2, anything that you're purchasing on a phone that you think you can buy safely, that's a no-go. 3, you got friends. And if your friend has a friend who says, hey, I got a buddy of mine who sold me some vape. I know him, he's good. No, he's not. If you're not buying from a pharmacy, That's the only place you're 99.9% accurate in terms of getting what you're buying. And then the last thing is, how do you help each other to get that information out the way they like to do it through their phones, where they can take a link? And for your fans out there, for all of you parents, go to soldouttv.com. This is what we're doing this week. Hashtag tackling fentanyl, hashtag saving lives. Go to soldouttv.com. At the top of the page is fentanyl education. It's a full page of everything that you need to know about this subject matter. We've done all the research for you. And here's the good news. There's a stigma with this. There's a misinformation and politicization. We're not asking you to share it with your friends and talk about it. We're asking you to take that link and go to your friends, neighbors, family, coworkers. Take a look at this link. You should really see this so you have the information to protect your kids and to have a conversation about the facts so that they can make a wise decision if they come across temptation or peer pressure.
Besides the obvious, what made you get involved in this?
I had a brother who was a closet alcoholic, started drinking when he was a sophomore in high school, and I did not know it. My family did not know it. He was a great athlete, excellent student, started hanging around with the wrong group of kids. You know how that starts. Started doing alcohol and drugs, and it wasn't until 17 years later when he was 32 where I found him and where he hit bottom. I happened to be, believe it or not, the person who stopped by on a lark to his apartment and found him, took him to rehab, got him help, and now he's hasn't had anything since 1988. He's number one salesman in his real estate company. Wow. He's doing great, but he's not the story is there's a lot of guys like my brother who are dead today or in prison today. So that was a big part of it. And then, you know, when I grew up, guys, we all grew up, you know, with having people in our lives that helped keep us on the straight and narrow, that helped warn us about things that we needed to watch. And, of course, for me, that was coaches, other parents, pastors, other people in my life who I never would have made it to pro football if that had not been. So what I'm trying to do through this organization is not only warn kids about what they need not to do, but more importantly, we have a life skills program on that website at soldouttv.com where we have people like Patrick Mahomes, Lisa Leslie, Dr. Oz, Tom Brady that speak to the kids about life skills, about success, what you need to do to be successful. And then we give them a 3-step alcohol, drug abstinence pledge that they take to be accountable, where they can do the positive thing to say, okay, if I know I can't experiment, if I know that I can die from trying something one time, then maybe I need to make a decision to be drug and alcohol abstinent, okay, and to take the risk completely out of it. So it's a very positive campaign. Our mission is educate, encourage, challenge.
So you're also working with Fathead,
yeah,
which is super exciting and really cool. You were telling us before about the collection that they're coming out with that your dad is a part of from those great 70s era teams.
Well, you see the big smile on my face. I grew up like you guys did in the 60s and 70s.
I was in the 80s.
Yeah, in the 80s too.
Yeah.
The only way you could get a full-size photo of your favorite player was at SI, at Sports Illustrated Posters. Right. They were $2. They came in the roll-up tube to your house, and you know, my brothers and I, we didn't see our walls. They were just filled with stars. So I still have my dad's 3 posters from the Eagles and Rams, the original SI posters. So when they came out with Fathead, I was like, this is awesome, because you can stick them, take them off. You can put them in your man cave. You can put them in your office. You can give them as gifts to your grandkids, because that's what the kids are all about now. My grandkids at home, I gave them a Steph Curry for Christmas. They love that. So, you know, everybody loves Patrick Mahomes and Tom Brady and the whole deal. So I got with Chris Hetherington, who's a 10-year fullback in the NFL. Chris, I got in contact after my dad died April. And he said, I'd love to be able to, memorialize your dad forever in a Fathead Legends. Would you develop it? And so I developed it. It's ready to go. I'll send you guys some photos so you can take a look. But here, very, very soon, we'll be launching it. It'll be a big marketing campaign. So I'm really excited about that.
And it's him and Staubach and Bradshaw.
They have now Namath, Staubach, Bradshaw, Franco Harris, Johnny Unitas, who, by the way, Johnny was my dad's idol. And, of course, he played in many big games against Johnny Unitas. He probably was one of the only guys to have a winning record against Johnny Unitas. So, yeah, the Fathead collection is a full-size stand-up, full-size sticker set. And me being an old-school guy like you guys, it's the old Rams horn logo. It's the old block LA Rams. It's the white and blue MVP uniform from 1969. 1 bar on the Fathead. I told him I don't want him with his hair. I want it with the helmet and the single bar. So everybody's going crazy on what I've showed him.
I played at a high school in Japan. That we were the Yokota, but our colors were like the Rams colors. And I just loved that color. It's just simple. and yet dynamic.
There were two uniforms, right? The
Yep.
Rams and the old Chargers powder blue was
Yes.
one of the most beautiful uniforms you ever seen. If you guys remember, when the two leagues came together, they came to the Coliseum and played the Rams in 1972. And you had the Chargers old school and the Rams old school on the same field. It was amazing.
I wish the Rams would go back to those colors.
Listen, every team in the NFL does the throwbacks. The Rams are missing. I've told them this.
Yep.
You guys are missing out on thousands and thousands of dollars. Why don't you have the throwbacks in the Rams store and on the Rams deal? Why don't they wear them at least once a year with the all white like they did when they were at the Coliseum 3 years ago?
I mentioned Joe Cap, Roman Gabriel, your father, and that's kind of when I was 8, 9, 10, 12 years old when they were great teams. What was the legacy that your father left, in your opinion?
Well, I see it differently because I saw it from the start.
Sure.
You know, my dad started playing when I was born, and he didn't finish playing until I graduated high school. That's 17 years. So as a kid, I thought that 17 years was what everybody plays because that's all I saw. I lived it. I knew when I was 7 I wanted to be like my dad. I wanted to play pro football. I told him. He didn't want me to play tackle football when I was 7. I begged him. Finally, he let me play when I was 9. And these were the words he said to me, even as a playing Pop Warner. He said, if I let you play football, you're going to do it right, you're not going to quit, and you're going to take it seriously because you respect the game. And that was the way that I saw the game, because that's the way my dad lived the game 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, when nobody was watching. That's what he said. When nobody's watching is when you become a champion. So my dad's legacy is two ways. I want to get him in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. He made it to the top 60 this year in the senior category. But I also can tell you that he raised over $10 million using this platform as an NFL quarterback to help kids, to help charities. And he took me to those events, showed me what charity looked like when I was a kid. And now today, for the last 25 years, we've been serving the same way. And I would not be doing what I'm doing with my foundation if my dad had not shown me how important it is that the fans are what make you. And the bottom line is you take seriously what you can do with your platform to help other people.
Out of curiosity, because he had, I know, there's some acting gigs that he did, and he was, you know, John
Wayne movie and Perry Mason.
Perry Mason and Gilligan's Island. Yeah, I mean, I think I read it because I remembered it, and I looked it up, and I remember the episode specifically. Because when I was a kid, I used to watch it every morning.
I got to send you guys this. The Rams memorialized my dad at the first game this year at halftime, brought our family in, and we came out on the field, and they did this incredible 4-minute video presentation. They put together for me 3 2-minute on three different parts of his life. I'll send those 3 to you. They're on YouTube.
Yeah.
They did an incredible job of looking at how he impacted marketing in sports, like him and Namath were the 2 first quarterbacks to really do that, how he impacted the community, and then what he did on the field.
Yeah, and because how much did that just kind of open up to a new world where people are like, oh, he's on the Merv Griffin show all the time.
Guys, I never would have known this. I knew what people thought about my dad, because my dad was the kind of person that if you did anything for him, the first thing he would do is write you a thank you letter in his handwriting. And one thing he told me was, even when I graduated high school and I got gifts for graduation or Christmas, he would tell me, you're going to write a thank you letter to all of them. That's what you're going to do. You're going to thank them for what they did for you. And see, I've heard from thousands of Rams fans all over the country, Eagles fans since he died, and the stories, you know, just these chance short things where they met him in public and they said how much he meant to him, that they spent time with them, that he signed autographs and took pictures, that he took time out of his schedule. And I'm going to tell you one quick story. When my dad played for the Rams, I would go in the locker room after the game at the Coliseum and wait for him. He would, you know, get treatment, and he would get everything he needed to do and meet with all the reporters, you know, all the beat guys. After the game, if you guys remember the Coliseum, there was a rampway that came up with a gate, and the fans would be on the other side of the gate waiting for guys to come out and get autographs. He came out, and he would be, after playing a game, win or lose, he would stand out there for as long as he needed to stand there, and he'd sign every single autograph. And this is a message for players today. I know you're making great money. I know that our country right now, it's all about me. But remember the guys like my dad and other guys like Johnny Unitas, Roger Staubach, who set the tone for you don't forget the fans. Don't forget the people who make it happen for you. Take the time. Sign the autographs. Don't get ever tired of that, because you're in the place you're in and making the money you're making because fans pay a ton to come to games and for what it costs to watch on TV.
And when a player retires, they talk about the camaraderie in the locker room,
That's
and
right.
the roar of the crowd, the fans, the adulation, and much more. Give both the Fathead and also the fentanyl.
Okay, so you go to fathead.com to the Legends section, and what we're going to do is we'll have an announcement coming out soon. But I can tell you guys, go to Roman Gabriel 3 on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. I'm going to put for you pictures up of all the products today so you can see what you're getting. And I'll tell you that Fathead's behind our helping youth and helping them what we're doing, so it's kind of a dual deal. But for all parents and all your fans and everybody listening, go to soldouttv.com. It's a full cafeteria program with everything done for you on what you need to learn for your kids about health and wellness, about drugs and alcohol, and, of course, about fentanyl. Go to the top of the page, click on Fentanyl Education, and will you send it to at least one person, that link today, and they'll send it to one, and they'll send it to one, so we can get this message out and keep our kids alive.
Great to see you, man. Every year you've been, you're a staple of Radio Row.
David, you guys are the best. Anytime that you need me, can I come back on when we announce the Fathead?
Sure, yeah. Hell yeah.
I would love to do that.
I'll give you my card.
Let's do it.
All right, buddy. Thank you, man.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate
Roman
you.
Gabriel III
Thanks,
with
brother.
us. 365 Sports.
Country rock singer Jay Allen is with us. Jay, I'm kind of fascinated about your story in that, you're on The Voice, which
yes, sir.
I would say is okay, first let's talk about that. Okay. How nerve-wracking is that experience? And look, you're a performer, so the nervousness of performing isn't really that big of a deal. You got on stage every night. That's not a big deal. But when you're singing to the backs of people's chairs.
Weird. It's very weird.
It's a different thing. I'm a comedian. I've had to do like auditions where there's one dude or two dudes in the room, and you're like, well, I don't know how.
Yeah, when you can't work a crowd and there's cameras on you and you're staring at the back of Gwen Stefani's head, it's like, man, this is strange.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they kind of like, I love them all, and I'm so grateful for the opportunity. I speak highly about them at all times, but they kind of try to break you. They want the drama, so they make it a very intense experience. So, but the first episode was good. I just felt like I was walking on stage and talking to him and doing my thing. So,
and then after that, it's like, well, you could. Then they start coaching you.
Well, then they lock you in a room in Burbank, California, in a hotel. You're not allowed to leave more than 10 minutes per day. So it was like COVID on the West Coast. So we weren't allowed out of our rooms. I was sunbathing in the window sometimes. It got a little weird and got in my head. It actually really sucked at first, and then I realized I'm never going to get this much time alone ever again. So I started songwriting, and actually a really cool song came out of it called No Present Like the Time that I wrote, and it actually ended up on country radio for a little bit. So,
you are in the fight against Alzheimer's disease, and was that you were a caretaker for your mother, correct?
Well, the story goes, I'll try to condense it. So I grew up in a little town in Iowa. Cedar Falls is where Kurt Warner's from. Slipknot's from there. I escaped years ago, and I moved to Nashville. And a couple years in, I get a phone call from my dad, and he said, you know how your mom's been going to the same place of work for years and years? Well, she called me this morning. She was crying. She said, I pulled over on the side of the road. I have no idea where I am. Please come pick me up. And so she was officially diagnosed with what's called early onset Alzheimer's, age 51. Unfortunately, it took her life like this, 2 years and 9 months it took her. So in the middle of that, Dad decided to bring her to Nashville to spend time with us. And while she was there, it was devastating. I was the oldest, only son. Mom raised me to believe that I was like the center of the universe. I was the cockiest kid ever because I was so loved by my mom. But when my mom walked in the door, it wasn't my mom. She looked through me like I was nothing. Man, it broke something inside of me. And so we took her out to this bar. I just wanted to get out of the house. And I remember she had this like glossy look on her face and her eyes. But when we opened up the door of that venue and walked in, she saw a band on stage. And it all went away. She came back. So I grabbed her by the hand. I pulled her to the front of the venue, right in front of the stage. And we started slow dancing to this fast song. And a couple steps in, I felt my mom just lean in. And she goes, because of music. She leaned in and she said, oh, Jay, I love you. It's so good to be here. It's so good to see you. I have my mom back. And so I had this thought, man, I still see you. You're still in there. I'm going to fight for you. I still see you in between those blank stares. And so a couple weeks later, I wrote that song on Music Row with a buddy, and I never intended for anyone to hear it. It was just for me, and as therapy and heartache. And the president of Sony heard it, and he reached out and he said, I lost my dad to dementia. I know what this song is about. Make me a promise. We're going to get this song in front of some important people if we give every dime back towards the fight against dementia. I said, yes, sir. Ended up on radio. Ended up doing interviews everywhere, touring everywhere. And I started sharing that message. We put on this really fun country rock show. We're all covered in tattoos and wear black, and everyone's like having a good time and drinking and enjoying themselves. At the end of it, I take people to church. I share our message. I felt like I wasn't getting the full impact. And so I decided to bring my mom on stage. What better way to teach people than to show them? And so brought my very sick mom on stage, opening up for Jake Owen in front of thousands of people. And they all got quiet, and someone took a video, and they put it on their Facebook, and it got 1 billion views. It cracked the internet, and said yes to everything. We've been a part of helping raise $160 million. I get to honor my mom every day and fight against dementia, shine light on caregivers, and use this to do something good in the world.
Yeah, that's such an amazing story. And you know what's I find cool about this era of music that we're in is that country rock's coming back. It kind of maybe
rock's coming back.
Rock's coming back.
I'm
Which
excited.
man,
I started writing rock. I started writing active rock about 3 months ago, and I'm having the time of my life. I'm going to keep it to myself for a while because it's a little scary because you can say whatever you want. Rock music, there's no boundaries. That's coming next. But yeah, man, you can. There's no genres. It's just what's good music, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Beyonce just won a country award for crying out loud.
I think it's awesome.
Hey, does the song slap? Yes. Then it's
That's all that matters.
Does it have some twang? Does it have some of that? Yes. Then it's country music. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I love it, man.
Yeah, absolutely. So my wife's family lives in Nashville. I'm up there.
Oh,
I'm up
cool.
there quite a bit.
Right on. So you know the landscape.
Yeah, a little bit. And
Bachelorette capital of the world.
Yeah. You know what? You walk down the street on Broadway, and I think the anthem is "Man, I Feel Like a Woman," because the first time she took me there, we're on Broadway. We're sitting at Hattie B's. And
I love Hattie B's.
Yeah, we're at Hattie B's, and I hear.
Oh yeah.
And then 5 minutes later, I heard it again, and I thought, who is, at first my brain is is somebody just out there, playing this song on a loop?
No, they're on the party trucks.
They're on the party trucks, and it's just this one goes in the water. This one does a different thing. This one is a hot tub.
I have friends that drive those trucks, and I blame them every day. I'm like, please stop playing that song. I'm starting to feel like a woman.
Yeah, exactly. It's crazy, man. It's absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
No, but it's a cool thing. What is it? I know the world of music is not maybe competitive like sports is in the same way, but there is competition.
Yeah.
But you really do have to just kind of focus on the art, right?
Yeah, as humans, that's how we're wired.
Yeah.
We're competitive. And then we have the social media where it's easy to, I'm not doing that. That sucks.
Yeah.
You know? For me, I've seen the power of social media, and it turned me from that, what can I do with music to make myself successful and famous and happy, whatever, towards actually I can use this in a niche, you know, in a really personal story to help, benefit people. So there's zero competition for me. I'm the biggest cheerleader for everyone, and I'm always learning. I'm like, oh, that's cool. I'm so happy for you, man. And now I've been in Nashville for almost 12 years, so I have a lot of famous friends, so I just get to watch and cheer them on, and it's an awesome place to be in.
Yeah, my brother-in-law is the GM at Sperry's, so if you ever go to Sperry's,
really?
Yeah, ask for Rami, he'll hook you.
Okay,
yeah,
right on, man.
Yeah, so actually he was just down in Waco this last week. He's a big Kansas fan and came down for that game and left disappointed again. But okay, Drew, what is your dream collaboration? If you could, across any genre, any artist, sit down and do a duet with?
Yeah, Chris Daughtry.
Really?
Yeah,
okay.
I know it sounds weird, but I love. My mom introduced me to country music when I was a kid. And she had this car. I hated this car so much. It was a '95 Buick LeSabre. It was purple. She rolled down the windows though every time she picked me up from school, and she cranked up the local country radio station. So I love country music because of Mom. Dad was a hippie. He had a mullet back when mullets were cool the first time.
Yeah.
He had a jean jacket with a collar pop. He came downstairs one day and he had a matching jean jacket for me. I was 10 years old. And he says, time for you to go to your first concert. It was Kansas opening up for Styx.
Oh, wow.
So I love, Mr. Roboto with your dad when you're 10 years old. That was awesome.
Yeah.
I love rock and roll music because of Dad. And so he brought home records. He has an amazing classic rock vinyl collection, but he started bringing home records in like the late 90s, early 2000s, like Matchbox 20 and Live and Bush and stuff like that. And then this guy came out and Chris Daughtry and like the Three Doors Down era stuff.
Yeah.
I fell in love with like that alternative active rock sound. And a big fan of his, and then I actually got to meet him, so it became personal with me. He lost his grandma to dementia, and so we did like a celebrity Alzheimer's event in Nashville. And I was like, oh, he sings like that, puts out awesome music, looks really cool, and he's an awesome guy.
Yeah.
That's the type of people I want to work with, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm kind of a fan of all genres of music, but like, I'll tell you, like, bringing rock back is great because the best show I've ever been to in my life. I mean, top two, like Garth Brooks was unbelievable. It was unbelievable, but
awesome guy.
Foo Fighters was 3 hours of like. And here's the thing: is wild, and this is what happens when you're in your 30s and 40s. Like they said, they're going to start at 8 or at 9 o'clock and play till midnight when the noise ordinance happens. And Dave, I'm like 10:50 or 11:59. Dave's like, "All right, thanks." I saw him in Houston. Thanks, Houston. You've been great, and off the stage. And it was 3 hours of nothing but rock, and it was unbelievable.
Man, that's a long time for a show to play. You know, being a performer, I'm like 2 hours. I'm like exhausted, man.
Yeah.
yeah. And I don't drink anymore either, so I'm like, I need some fuel somehow. Yeah. Stacy, my manager, that cute blonde over there, she's handing me coffees now. It's a weird time. Yeah, man. I love Dave Grohl. Love Foo Fighters. Yeah. I'm like one step away from meeting Dave. I know I have a really close friend, Tim Montana, who knows Dave and has been on the road with the Foo Fighters, so I'll meet him soon. I also forgot to plug.
Oh, yeah, we got to talk about the wine.
Yeah, this is a Round Pond Estates. It's a winery in Napa Valley. So really cool thing happened. I was performing there at an event called Live in the Vineyard, and the owners from Round Pond Estate were at one of the events, and they reached out to me and asked to do lunch. And they shared that they lost their dad to dementia, and they wanted to do something impactful in the world to honor him. So they started this line of wine called Honorin'. And if you look closely, every single picture is a photo of someone. So it's all people we've lost to dementia. Their dad's on there, and then my mom is on there in the top corner.
Oh, there you go.
And so they lose money on this. They give half of every bottle back towards the fight against dementia. So we partner with them. We've done tours with them. We're doing a cruise with them next year in Rome. So we get to share our message around the world because of them taking initiative to help, elevate what I do.
Well, it is one of the most worthy causes in the world. Roundpond.com, shop wine supporting Alzheimer's research. Jay, all right. So, are you a big sports fan? Are you a sports guy, or this?
No, yeah. My dad's a massive sports fan, especially football. He was a Pats fan. So we grew up in Iowa, and I was like, why do you like the Patriots? Like geographically, this makes no sense. Like we should be KC fans or Minnesota fans. But he explained to me his dad was a diehard Patriots fan, so it kind of trickled down. For me, I got to root for the Chiefs this year because it's another personal connection. We made friends a year and a half ago with Nick the Kick, Nick Lowry, Hall of Famer from the Chiefs. And he found out through a friend I'd done a private event with. She shared my story with him, and he lost his brother to dementia. So we've partnered many times to do charity events, and I got to have his back. He'd be mad at me if I cheered for the latter.
Now, okay, you're from Iowa. Are you a Hawkeye or a Cyclone?
I'm a Hawkeye.
Okay.
A guy that I worked for a farmer growing up. He kind of halfway raised me. His name was Ron. He was a Cyclones fan, and I'd always purposely cheer for the Hawkeyes to get underneath his skin.
Okay.
yeah, Hawkeyes, right. Man. Yeah. I actually met. I was a wrestler growing up, and I got to meet Dan Gable, the famous wrestling coach from Iowa. So yeah.
Well, Jay, is Des Moines the latest album that you have?
Yeah, we put out a country record. I wanted to put out something. Stacy, my manager, encouraged me to do this. So I never got in the studio and created a record the right way with session players and a hit producer. And so we took a couple months to do that. And I wanted to release something that was just kind of down the middle, easy listening country for all ages. And then the title mattered to me, that it mattered. So we titled it Des Moines because I'm from Iowa and I wanted to honor where I come from. Always. I ran away from home when I was a kid, but now looking back, I'm like, that place made me. I should honor it.
You mentioned the session players, and I know you got other interviews that you got to do, but when I went to see Garth Brooks a couple years ago, because it was his last arena tour he says he's going to do.
Oh, dang.
He says, but you never know. But it was at AT&T Stadium in Dallas, which is unbelievable, and he, on that tour, brought
all of his old session players, including the guy who wrote the lick for Friends in Low Places and all that, because none of them have ever really been at
they don't play live.
They don't play live.
Most of them, they work their whole life just to be in A-list session players. You know? So, I actually met the guy that wrote the main songwriter for Friends in Low Places. It was in the men's restroom at Red Door, a bar in Nashville, Midtown. It was so weird. He was so drunk, smacked me on the butt, and he said, "It's gonna be okay, little buddy." And then I walked out. My buddy was like, "That's the guy that wrote Friends in Low Places." I'm like, that was so weird.
That's wild. Yeah, but Garth, he starts bringing all these because he's got the regular touring band up there with him.
Yeah, that's cool. I didn't know that.
And then all of a sudden he just starts bringing out these guys, and some of them are old.
Oh, sure.
Old. Like when you start thinking about this, because he's telling a story I just got to Nashville. I'm 27 years old, something like that.
30.
They're already 30, so
least.
30, 40 years old, and he's like, well, this guy is the one who we're writing the song, and he's like, well, you should do this, and then he brings him out, and they play that song.
That's
and I was
awesome.
like, man, this is and then people start cheering because they're like, oh, this is the guy who made the song.
That
and these
memorable
guys got
lick that we all know.
Yeah. Three of them, and there was 10 he brought out, but three of them got so overwhelmed they were just like, oh my God, this is what I'm talking about. So I thought that was one of the coolest things I've ever seen.
You think what you want to think about Garth Brooks. I've met him personally, and we've done some things together for charity as well. Every time I see him, he looks me in the eye, remembers exactly who I am, remembers my story with my mom, and remembers Blank Stares.
Yeah.
He's an anomaly. He's a great guy.
Yeah, I was I told anybody, I don't care if you grew up liking hip-hop music, if you like anything. I've gotten to the point where I just like concerts. So, if you're just going to put it out there, I wouldn't call myself a Taylor Swift fan. If you want to throw me some tickets, I'm going.
Her concert's insane, man.
I had never seen Justin Timberlake live. I saw him at the Super Bowl halftime show in Nashville. I'm
cool.
going every time.
Yeah,
or not in Nashville, in Minneapolis.
He's a monster performer.
I mean, it's no, you just got to go see him.
Where you get to experience a real artist is when they perform.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I want you to come down to Waco, Texas, if you ever do.
I'd love to. Talk to that lady over there.
Yeah, come to Waco. Yeah. Hey, we got Chip and Joanna. They can help you out. We got Fixer-Upper. So, but yeah, we'd love to see you come down to Waco, Texas.
I'd love that.
Yeah, no, I told my wife you're going to be on. She's like, oh, I remember him completely. So, yeah. So
Stacy, we're going to Waco.
yeah. So, yeah, we're going to get it done. Jay Allen, again, check out roundpond.com, shop wine to support the Alzheimer's research. So awesome to talk to you, Jay. Keep doing the good work.
Thanks, Paul.
All right.
Yeah.
This is 365 Sports.
Hi, I'm Mark Stewart with Bird Colgan Ford. It's that time of year, it's football season. Bird Colgan Ford is a proud supporter of the best high school football right here in Central Texas. BK Ford is proud to sell the #1 selling truck in Texas, the F-Series truck, 47 years in a row. Come see the largest showroom in Texas and experience better at Bird Colgan Ford.
Edward Jones Financial Advisors Ben Erlinson, Brad Wilson, and Cam Heathcott understand these are difficult and changing times we live in, but they know how important your financial investments are to you. So is your financial advisor staying in touch with you and helping you navigate today's financial climate? Invest with Edward Jones Financial Advisors Ben Erlinson, Chuck Verno, Brad Wilson, and Cam Heathcott, who invest their time and experience back to you and your money. And like coaching athletes, investing money is about time, patience, and encouragement. Contact Ben Erlinson at 254-759-8533. Brad Wilson's location at 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, and Cam Heathcott in Conroe. Edward Jones Financial Advisors, Ben Erlinson, Brad Wilson, and Cam Heathcott, proud sponsors of 365 Sports. Edward Jones, making sense of investing, member SIPC. Allen Samuels House of Travel is a full-service travel agency with highly experienced travel consultants plus support staff with over a combined 150 years in the travel business. They are ready to take care of any travel situation for you, your family, and your business, and with the kind of knowledge to complete a seamless itinerary trip start to finish. They will search for the best deal to accommodate your budget from air to cars, ship to shore, hotel, and even meeting space. Name a destination and they've been there. They know the places to go, and international and missionary travel is one of their unique specialties. Allen Samuels House of Travel, celebrating 50 years in business. Call Connie, Sherry, Linda, or Bambi at 254-776-2560 or find them on Facebook or at houseoftravelwaco.com.
Parenting is full of surprises.
You never know what to expect.
So after our son was born, I called my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent to set up a life insurance policy in case something happened to me.
Sawyer is now 2.
And we'll soon have a sister. There's no one else I would trust with protecting my family.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Rolling, Mahomes, he can keep it, he can get there, he's in for the touchdown.
Live from Radio Row for Super Bowl 59 in New Orleans, this is 365 Sports. Radio Row coverage is brought to you by Alan Samuels House of Travel, the official travel sponsor of 365 Sports. Now here's David Smoke and Paul Catalina.
One of my favorite media personalities, Sarah Spain. Good game with Sarah Spain. And Sarah, we were talking on the way over here. We met in Houston about 8-9 years ago.
Yeah.
And Kate Fagan.
8 years ago, because I just re-upped an Insta story where I was headed to Taylor Swift in Houston at the some sort of party.
Back when she was just a minor.
Just a tiny little name.
Just running clubs, just trying to make it. But Kate Fagan and Smokey, my co-host, they brought you two over.
Yeah.
They were in a debate about something. They actually wound up becoming pretty good friends. Like when Kate Fagan hosted OTL, she called Smokey to be on.
That's great.
And I was like, because it was awkward. Like it was one of those things where you and I were just sitting there like, so
twiddling our thumbs, like, are they going to get to the end of this debate? It was a good debate. It was a good topic. I'm glad it resulted in a lasting friendship.
Yeah.
Should we tell the people what they were debating?
Well, I have no problem. They're debating Kim Mulkey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Kate wrote a story about, I don't know if this was around that time, but she wrote a story about Brittany Griner and struggles with being open with her homosexuality at Baylor and Kim Mulkey's, impact on that decision and everything else and how she wasn't a great and welcoming ally. And then Kim Mulkey tried to get Kate fired from ESPN for that. So in a long line of questionable decisions from Kim Mulkey.
Yeah, no, I have, I'll tell you, it was a wild time covering her.
Yeah.
We had a good professional relationship. And sometimes I thought like we might even be like, like she went through some struggles like with her PR and stuff, and I did feel bad for her because some of it was fair and some of it wasn't. Like the fair stuff, you had to tell somebody like, Kim, like you kind of did that to yourself.
Yeah.
The unfair stuff is like, Kim, you just can't listen to it. And it's funny that you were one of the people I think of when, it comes to fair and unfair, because you were one of the people who decided, like, I'm going to wade into the cesspool that is social media, particularly Twitter, before Twitter even was what is owned by the guy who's owned it now, and kind of take on these things and put a face to it. And you had a video where you just made people read the mean tweets back to you.
Yeah.
And it wasn't Jimmy Kimmel mean tweets.
No.
It was like legitimate scary shit. So
yeah, that had a really big impact, and unfortunately it didn't solve the world's problems of misogyny or cruelty or internet hate, but it did open people's eyes. I think it still gets shared a lot. A lot of teachers tell me they use it in class. For people who haven't seen it, it's called More Than Mean. You can find the PSA, won a ton of awards at Peabody and Cannes Lions and things like that. And it really was just the idea, this guy had the idea of taking it off the page. It's really easy to read that stuff, but to actually see someone try to be a human being and say aloud, I hope your boyfriend beats you, I hope you get raped again, to the other woman that did the video with me who had been open about her rape. To see a human do it, you kind of remember like, that's why it feels so easy on the internet, because you're not looking in someone's eyes. There's no psychosomatic connection that you're having of your body and your brain and what's happening. And just reminding people of that. I think about that a lot when I have every once in a while, the fourth wall will break down with a fan. Someone that I've spoken to a lot on social media, they'll send something or say something that it really gives me a look into their life, whether it's like, oh, I'm helping my mom move out of her house. She's a hoarder and it's really hard. Or I lost my job and I've been sleeping in my car for a while, but it really makes me feel glad to listen to your show. And I'm like, man, I got to remember when I'm messaging with people, I have no idea what they're going through. And, sometimes you just want to be quick or mean or silly back because someone's frustrating, but it's like, you got to remember you have no idea what's happening on the other side of that and be kind of thoughtful about it.
Yeah. I've always enjoyed, we're in a weird time where people take opinions and they make them polarizing.
Yeah.
But we really do have everybody. Look, I sat here and interviewed Curt Schilling the other day, I'm a Red Sox fan, so I love Curt Schilling. He and we don't agree politically.
Yeah.
We do not. But we if we don't talk about some of the things that neither he and I are going to solve, we find out we have more in common than we have different.
Right.
And that's why I kind of enjoy some of a lot of your stuff, because again, we do have way more in common than we do have different. And we can focus on the negative all we want, and you do a good job of attacking the negative, but also kind of showing hey, these are Kate Fagan and Smokey would not hang out. I'll tell you right now, they would not have been friends in any other walk of life, but they hashed it out, and now they have a good.
I was just having this conversation with someone about the current sort of political climate and losing more and more people, especially young men, to this sort of incel culture as a result of widespread societal changes. And I'm really torn in some ways. I think that sometimes people do need to be held accountable for damaging opinions or choices that make other people's lives harder. And if we want to keep it cute and not call them out and not make it difficult for them, then they're able to make those decisions, whether it's voting or posting things on social or whatever, and not have to pay the consequences that the people that are hurting because of those votes or those posts do have to pay.
Yeah.
So do we call them out and make sure that they feel it and that they aren't comfortable in getting to be that kind of person? Or, to your point, there's also an argument for calling in. How do you bring someone in and actually have conversations with them and hope that those conversations help them see a different perspective that makes them want to hurt those folks less?
Yeah.
And there's a great story of a gal that was part of the Westboro Baptist Church. She grew up in it, and she was a kid, but her parents are bringing her to protests of funerals for gay people and stuff, and she just got raised that way. And people on the internet started to show up, because Westboro used to publicize where they were going, and say, hey, you're whoever, right? Yeah, we talk on Twitter sometimes, so why are you here? Oh, how do you feel about this? And slowly through conversation make her realize, I don't actually know why I'm here, and I don't know why I'm protesting someone's funeral, right? And she came out of Westboro Baptist, started doing TED Talks about how to convince and change people's minds. And it's usually not boycotting, being mean, calling them stupid. It's usually that calling in process. It's just sometimes easier said than done for folks like us who really feel for the people getting hurt by policies and things like that.
And it can be cathartic to shout back, right?
Right.
So
it feels good, and then you're like, and I've accomplished nothing. No one changed their mind.
Exactly.
But I get good virtue points for being someone who calls those people a-holes.
Yeah. I think about Nelson Mandela when he got out. They asked him, okay, you're going to go after all these people? He's like, well, that's just going to reverse the cycle. So no, I'm just going to I'm just going to look him in the eye and say here's where we need to go. So
that's what I always say about Twitter. I'm never going to make fun of someone's looks, weight, money, girlfriend, husband. People will find someone that's rude and then they'll just be rude back. I'm like, what are we doing here? We're just adding to the garbage. So I might make fun of their spelling or grammar, but other than that, I'm usually just using callbacks to help expose a bad opinion or call something out or correct something. I don't want to just be mean back. Then we're just filling the space with even more of that garbage.
So you launched the new podcast, Good Game with Sarah Spain, and look, you were been with ESPN. You did the radio thing. You ran it through. I actually think my friend Q is hosting the slot now.
Nice.
Q, yeah. But you did all that. How much of this, doing this podcast, you can kind of be independent of it and focus on issues. More women's sports talk, because part of the thing is, and I just know this from when I first got to Waco and I started have to start talking about women's basketball, I had to learn about it, and then I had to outside of the broad strokes that I knew, I had to get it, I had to know the point guard from Oklahoma State.
Presumably fell in love with it.
Yeah, it was hard given who I was covering. But I got I've gotten there over time.
Yeah.
Like people it's an old joke. They make fun of me because I was just like, this is, and part of it was I just didn't I don't like covering blowouts in anything.
Right.
So if I'm going to sit there and I have to wait 40 minutes for this game to be over, that it was over when it
That's no
started.
fun.
It doesn't matter. Like it was the same way with football. If I'm at a football game that's a blowout, I'm like,
right, get to it.
Like I don't get to go home when you guys do. I have to wait for somebody to say why they won or lost, why they blew them out or got one out.
Exactly. Why'd you get your ass beat?
Yeah, it's not fun. Like I cover the Cowboys. Like I love doing it, but then you go down, and so it's just. But I've become a much bigger fan over time.
Yeah, a lot of people have, which has been cool.
Because you start watching it, and the other thing is like. And Brittany Griner, to me, and I was lucky to be there right at the beginning, and I saw it. I think she ushered out a new era in women's basketball. And I'll tell you this, I was in Bowling Green, Ohio, covering them the year they won the national title. And there were little girls in a very small gym lined up around the gym to go see Brittany Griner. And I had not seen that from girls before growing up. I saw it from, you put a big-time male athlete in a place, and there were little kids lined up around the gym, but not girls. And I thought, this is different and it's changing, and I thought that was maybe my moment of moment. Okay, this is pretty cool. Yeah,
I mean, it's not just a saying that representation matters. The idea, and I was just talking to someone about this, I'm so happy for what's happening, and it's a little bittersweet for those of us who could have grown up with this and could have been inspired to go professional or to have bigger dreams than what we were allowed when we were growing up. Yeah, I mean, so Good Game with Sarah Spain is the only daily women's sports show of any kind. On radio, on podcasts, on TV, even websites that cover women's sports tend to update 2 or 3 times a week. So what I recognized was missing, and I didn't necessarily want to get back in the daily game. I did daily radio for ESPN for 13 years. I kind of that was partly why I got out, was I don't want to do the ephemeral everyday as much as I used to. It's not it's not my passion anymore, and I wanted to spend more time investing in women's sports. But when this opportunity came, Sue Bird and Laura Correnti, who started this Deep Blue relationship with iHeart for this women's iHeart Women's Sports Network, which is a whole collection of women's sports podcasts that iHeart launched. When they came and said, we want you to do a show, what would it look like? I said, God, I hate to say this. I hate to do this to myself, but it's got to be a daily. That's what's missing. It's the connective tissue, the stuff that we talk about in men's sports every day, where we can talk about who got fired, traded, said this, posted this, did this. In women's sports, there's too big of gaps. And what we haven't done well in the past in the sports industry is not just tell people what happened in a game, but convince them to come back to the next one in women's sports. We do that great with men's sports. Here's why you come back. Here's the player to watch. Here's the storyline. This person's playing against their former team for the first time. Will they get booed or cheered? This coach sucks. This person should be traded. This person should be cut. In women's sports, it's usually, welcome to the start of the season. Look who won. That's it. Nothing in the middle. So how am I supposed to know who are the players? What are the storylines? Why should I care? And what I always say in the show is, if you give somebody stake, story, stats, and stars, they'll be in. And when I first started out in the biz, to your point about you had to learn about women's sports, I had to learn NHL, NASCAR, all this stuff that I had watched casually, but when I first started working in the biz, I had to watch it, analyze it, and understand it. And even NASCAR, which I'm still not a fan of, once you learn that there's more to it than driving in a circle, you're a lot more interested in it.
Yeah.
And that's how I feel about women's sports. If I told you you're going to your first Chicago Sky game, and you know nothing about the team, and I just say, well, it's basketball, and watch. You're like, okay, but if I told you, okay, the stars are these people, the stakes are this. If they win this game, they go to the playoffs. If they lose, they're out. The stories are this. This player's coming back to her team after going somewhere else and winning a title, and she wants to come back and win it for her hometown. And then the stats. What's a good stat? What if you don't know that a player scoring 40 points is good versus 20 versus whatever? I give you just that little bit, and now you're all in. And so that's what our show tries to do for all women's sports. It's let me give you enough information and stories and interviews and fun and jokes for you to want to give Unrivaled a shot, to watch the WNBA, to get into the NWSL, all this other stuff. And so it's been really fun. The other thing that's interesting is there's no editorial oversight at iHeart. They let you say whatever you want. And after being at Disney for 14 years... Oh boy! I don't know what I'm allowed to say on this show, so I won't say anything.
Whatever you want.
But we had a show that was called Incurable Taint Rash. We can literally say anything. We end every show like the end because it's called Good Game. The fans are called slices, orange slices, which is what you get after a good game. And then at the end of every show, it's like the handshake line: good game, good game, good game, F you. There's always one person on the other team you don't want to say good game to. So at the end of every show, we say good game to our guest, good game to some other story, and then F you to someone that we hate.
Yeah.
And we can do that. And it can be a league, and it can be a person, it can be whatever. And iHeart is like, yeah, whatever.
I think also now, and it's good because, like, if you look at the WNBA, they've always had stars, but it's never been as deep as it is right now. And again, the Caitlin Clark factor is very real, but she, like, I'll compare it to her and Angel Reese is people forget that nobody cared about the actual NBA for quite a long time.
Yeah, it's Bird Magic.
Yeah, it's Bird Magic. And then I'm like listening to all this, and I'm like, do people not know that they're having a debate that they had 40 years ago about Bird Magic? And then they're kind of like, I think some people are mad about it because they're like, I'm arguing about women's basketball. I've never done that before.
Yeah.
And the two people in it, like, I don't think Caitlin Clark could care any less than she does about, like, what your narratives are about her at all. Now, Angel Reese likes to feel that a little bit.
Right.
Which
I mean, she's already a media member and using that stuff for her narrative, so it makes sense.
And again, it's sports. So
Yeah.
it's whatever. Like, whatever works for you is what works for you. What's the Bull Durham line? Like, if you think that you're winning because you're getting laid, not getting laid, whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Then
Just
you
sell
are.
it to yourself. And that was like, a lot of those conversations sucked. A lot of them were very thinly veiled: misogyny, racism, homophobia. Like, a lot of people brought a lot of garbage to those conversations, partly because they never watched. So they were like, oh, they're being mean to her. They're targeting her. And you're like, you've literally never watched a game. Let me show you this game where someone's like, we've got pulled out of their head. We're like, oh, they're being too physical. It's like, you've literally must never have watched a game. There were people arguing. There was a former NBA player who argued that the players should take it easy on Caitlin Clark so she puts up big numbers because it's good for the league. I'm like, what do you think you're watching? This isn't a soap opera. This is sports. You want professional athletes to not try?
Do you want Caitlin Clark to, like, how do you think she's going to feel about that?
The whole thing was so condescending, and it was very clear how many people did not see professional women's athletes as athletes. The number one thing is to win. That's it. And Caitlin Clark will do her best, and she did, and she became Rookie of the Year. And the beginning when she struggled was a part of the story. But the only thing I'll say for all those dumbasses was the conversations fueled debate. And part of the issue with women's sports is it is hard to have debate because people don't know enough. And for so long, especially even places like ESPN, like I would be on Around the Horn, we would pitch a story, and a couple panelists wouldn't know enough to do it. And I'd be like, listen, you'll learn MMA storylines. You'll learn how to pronounce some goalie from Russia for hockey, but you won't spend a second to learn it's Sabrina Ionescu and not Ionescu, even when she's breaking triple-double records left and right. You won't take a minute to do a little reading so you can have this conversation. And then what this allowed was morons who didn't know anything to still have a debate. It was pretty simple. You could argue Angel versus Caitlin. You could argue whether they were being mean to her without knowing anything. It didn't make for good debate, but it allowed it to get on the shows and in the platforms necessary. It opened the door. People watched because it got talked about. They liked it. They watched more, and here we are. And, like, that's what we've been saying for decades about women's sports. Give it a chance. Give it coverage. Give it spots in on main networks like ESPN and ABC. Give it a pre and post show where you tell people what to watch for. Give it the right treatment before you say that the product is to blame, instead of the industrial complex around men's sports that has always served it and has done nothing to help hold up the women's side.
Yeah, look, softball's as fun as it's ever been. If you watch the NCAA tournament right now, it's...
How about women's college volleyball?
Yeah.
Blowing up and such a good watch. Women's college basketball is 1,000,000 times better than men's. You cannot argue me otherwise. All those one and dones, nobody knows any of the names, any of the stars. The women's game, you watch someone like Juju Watkins, who already as a rookie was breaking records, and now we get 3 more years of her. To watch her get better and better, like, those storylines are way better. Paige Beckers is in her 80th season. We've been talking about her forever. We get to be excited about her every year. Like, that, to me, it's just about trying and giving it a shot and not bringing a bunch of old ideas about what it looks like or who's playing or anything else. Just give it a shot. And if you don't like it, cool. But don't poison the well because you're insecure about women getting some shine.
Yeah. You and I have a friend in common in Roy Wood Jr.
Yes.
He and I... the first stand-up show I ever did in Tallahassee when I was a student at Florida State. Roy was at FAM. He had already kind of established. He was on that show as like one of those who was in the club down under on campus.
Right.
And Ralph Harris was the headliner, and then we had this thing. Roy, I came in third. Roy came in second.
Ooh.
And a guy named Frondy. I'll never forget this as long as I live.
Where's Frondy now?
Frondy is nowhere. Frondy brought a bunch of people from the dorm and
Shout out to Frondy.
Fake peed his pants.
Oh.
And then
that was the winning.
That was what won. He brought a lot of people from the dorm.
For comedy. There's no accounting for taste.
And so Roy said, "Hey, we've got a regular show," and we started, and we've kept in contact.
Cool.
I haven't seen him for like 6 years, but like anytime he comes close, I go and see him. But he's been on your show a lot, and he is like
the best dude.
He's the best dude.
So smart too. If you've watched his new show, it really gives him an opportunity to flex some of those muscles that you don't see in a stand-up or on a quick hit. He's dropping knowledge about like literal like physics statistics about the inside of hurricanes and stuff. I'm like, dude, this guy, I mean, I've always known he was very smart, but like I love when he has the opportunity to bring all that stuff to his comedic sensibilities. And he's doing a great job.
Yeah, he's fantastic. You're also a big SNL buff too,
yes.
right? Oh,
50th anniversary. Feed me all the content. I cannot get enough. Did you watch the music special?
I've not yet. I've been like,
dude, the intro is a Questlove product. Okay, Questlove has been an SNL fan his entire life. He put together the sickest intro where basically he took musical performances from over the years and made a remix almost where they're on top of each other and weaving in and out. So there's like a Cher, Hanson, Bop, Do You Believe in Love, like with the beats mixing. It's like all the performances layered on top of each other like he was doing a DJ set. I wanted to cry out because it was like so genius. I was like, I just love watching someone excel at something like where you're just like your mind is blown. You have to watch it.
So I saw him, the media party in New York, the Super Bowl media party in New York. He played it, and he comes out just out of nowhere. And, like, I didn't even know he was going to be there. And I was like, oh, crap, it's Questlove. Yeah. And so he starts just mixing down. He has ruined DJs for me.
No, because you know how much they suck after you watch it.
So, like, then you go to, like, a party and, like, hey, I'm DJ Squirg. And you're like, stop. Just hit play and go away.
Yeah.
We don't – you are redundant. Like, this is not – So, I can't wait for all that. You got to
watch. So good.
Yeah.
I'm the cowbell documentary, killer.
Yeah.
There's a whole episode just about making the cowbell sketch.
Yeah.
So
and how it wrecked Walken for a little while.
Yeah. Walken refused to appear in the doc. He's like, I'm over it. Stop asking me for more cowbell.
This guy was the deer hunter, and here he is.
Yeah.
Well, Sarah, what do you think? We'll talk about the actual game this week. I'd like your opinion on that. Who do you think? What do you got? Is Patrick Mahomes in this scenario beatable?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm not going to pick against the Chiefs until they prove me otherwise. This is the thing I've done in sports around every single league is like when you get dynastic people and you're just always tempted to choose against them because you want something new, but there's really no reason to choose against the Chiefs, regardless of how they looked all season long, regardless of the holes, regardless of all the ways the Eagles might be a good matchup. They are going to win until they don't, and that's why I have to keep picking them. That being said, there's some pretty fascinating elements of this. I think the problem for the Eagles is one of the things that we've seen them do so well all season long is prevent like big time plays. And if you have a team that can function well against a bend don't break defense, which is exactly what the Chiefs are, they will beat it. Because the Chiefs don't need to beat you with big plays. It's dink, dunk, manageable third downs, keep it moving down the field, which Patrick Mahomes can always do both with his legs and with his arm and with his creativity. They've got enough talented players. You look at some folks that end of season come out of nowhere and suddenly become the biggest target. They manage to find and use their talent so well that a defense that kills other teams that need those big time plays to work doesn't kill the Chiefs. And that's why, as great as the defense of the Eagles has been, and as great as, I mean, it'll be about stopping Saquon. That's literally the only way I think the Eagles can win this is if Saquon busts out one of those 60-yarders. But yeah, my money's still on the Chiefs.
Yeah, absolutely. Sarah, I have enjoyed this thoroughly.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much.
Good game with Sarah Spain. Subscribe, rate, review, click. It's literally on every day. It's only about 30 minutes, so it's a nice, fun, easy listen. It'll give you everything you need to know to get on board with every women's sport and athlete and league.
Thank you so much, Sarah Spain. Listen to the podcast, click, download, all that stuff. This is 365 Sports. Okay. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed Super Bowl week. We had a great time here in New Orleans. That's it. I'm giving up Boudin. I'm kidding. I'm not giving up Boudin. I'm not giving up Boudin. I'm not going to do that. But we certainly appreciate it for you. Thank you to everybody who is involved in this. Thank you to all of our sponsors. Thank you to Alan Samuels House of Travel. Thank you to every single person that sponsored this trip. And a special shout out goes out to Bill Denton, who set us all up with our Airbnb. I want to say thank you so much to Bill. It was awesome. The Airbnb is great. As a matter of fact, we'll take some stuff and put it on social media so you can see how great it was. There's an upstairs patio. It was so awesome. Oh my gosh. Alan Samuels House of Travel just hooked it up for us. So look, knowing what they do just for us, I'll just tell you, if you are confused about, I know a lot of people don't use travel agents anymore. Well, they exist and you should, because they can find cooler stuff than you can. Absolutely. So absolutely go to Alan Samuels House of Travel to book your next trip. We had a great time. Garrett, Emery, thank you. We had a near crisis with a battery, but
we did, but we persevered.
We were down to 10% of this battery.
Yes.
And I bought a charger that we didn't know would work, and it did.
Thanks to Emery for figuring that one out.
Yeah, Emery figured that out. So it's been a great time. We always love this, and we can't wait to do it again next year from San Francisco. And I know it's weird that I say I can't wait to go to San Francisco, but
I love San Francisco.
But I can't wait to go. I can't wait to go because this is the most fun week of the year all the time. Thanks for watching. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the Super Bowl. This is 365 Sports.